borrow his spray painter or paint sprayer or whatever.
Yeah.
But hey, that's currently what's going on.
Mhm.
And then since we're not going to really care about the carpet, I don't know if she wants to go ahead and tear it up.
Hold the door.
Huh.
Who the fuck is that person? Who the fuck is
Julie.
that?
Justin!
Wait,
What's up?
Justin?
Who are
Wait,
you?
what?
Who the fuck is this?
Hey!
Hi,
Is this the man?
stranger.
Is this the man who was supposed to get me a shirt design that decided to dodge down?
So about that. Sorry. I suck. Listen, I come to you on bended knee with all of the contrition.
I just also realized that mics are hot.
Yeah, and chat's going, what? Justin!
Hey guys,
Oh, man.
what's up?
Oh my god.
So lots of things have happened.
I
Okay, the last
know,
word's
right?
back.
Mm.
That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing.
Is that Minion? That's Minion in the back, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Last word's garbage.
No,
Read your
it's
stories.
not.
Last word is garbage. Yeah, no. You hear him?
Mhm.
He used to respect me the last time I was on the show, and now.
Well, Gavin realized you're dishing on last word, so he's gonna start dishing it back.
Why must he be such a thorn in my side?
Oh, Lord, here we go.
I mean, he didn't fall too far from the tree, did he?
No, I just wanted to say hi, and Gavin and I are actually camping out.
Nice.
And we're spending the first night in the farmhouse, which is technically camping at this point. But yeah, it's just things have been really, really busy, really crazy. But I'd love to quit laughing. You sound like a maniac. Oh my god. I really got to build some freaking walls.
I was about to say, did you get the walls back on? Is that?
Well, actually, things are looking pretty good. It's all closed in. We got a floor.
Nice.
I mean, I'm doing electrical work. It's pretty cool. Anyways, I don't want to disrupt you guys too much. I know Zip nothing about anything, so I just thought I'd call in real quick.
But Justin, it's Halo night.
You gotta be kidding me.
It's Halo night.
Why do you think I'm sitting in here?
Oh my god. What are you doing?
Spartans.
What are you covering?
Spartans,
Is this
brother.
just another installment?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Installment of the pin show.
Does this make 3?
4.
Yeah, is it 4? It's 4 now, yeah.
It's 4.
So how far has 4 gotten us?
We did Halsey last time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember that.
We're doing Spartans this time.
Yeah.
Wow. I really need to finish that Buck book. I got the New Blood.
Yeah, is that
Oh, yeah.
Did you get it digital?
That is a good one, yeah.
Yeah, that's like the new. It's the story of how Buck became a Spartan.
Yep, that's New Blood. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm like a little bit into it.
I bet.
Things have been.
He doesn't care about it at all.
Be quiet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he really didn't fall far from the tree.
Okay, so I promised Gavin I would watch Mystery Science Theater 3000 with him. So I'm gonna have to split, but I just wanted to say hi. What are y'all doing next week?
The Forsaken Prince.
Yes.
Okay.
Talking about Aldrin.
Talking about Aldrin.
The guy who
Okay,
you're going to
well,
cosplay as.
Well, Mel never held up her end.
Did you see? She's going to. She's working on it, I think.
Is she really?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the last thing I saw on her Instagram, that she was finally going to cosplay her hunter.
Well, if she did Mara, the bet was if she did Mara Sov, I was going to cosplay my Woken Hunter. So that's that.
Yes.
So, anyways, you could see how this would go. So,
We missed you,
I'm gonna let
Justin.
y'all go. But yeah, I miss you too. I miss video games, and I miss you guys. So
Miss fun.
yeah. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have a concerted effort and try to actually be on the show. What's top 3 next week?
Green hasn't pulled the carpet out from under us on that one yet.
Not yet. I can come up with something that you might approve of.
Yeah, just don't make anything controversial like sandwiches.
How about favorite family moments / traditions? Top
Okay.
3. So that shouldn't be controversial because it's all personal. Unless you got some family controversy I don't know about.
I feel like you don't know me very well. No, that's great. Yeah. Favorite family moments / traditions.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Cool.
I've already got my
That's
number
pretty
1.
appropriate for next one too.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Cool.
Well, cool. I'm gonna let y'all do it. Do it to it. Mics are live, right?
Yep.
I need real quick before you go. We need to get the PNGs of the IR Hunter series so we can get those on a shirt.
Do you want it to be like? Do you want it to be the high res thing I did, or do you want
the high res ones? Can we get all 3 classes? Because that way we can have one for each.
The series.
Pew, pew. Choo, choo.
Yeah, I'll fire up the old computer.
Ooh.
Oh, thanks,
Fancy.
Rexy. That's actually really high praise. Thank you so much.
What do you do?
Subbed
crap.
and it said, so much love for you guys. I want to be a podcast streamer like you guys.
Thanks, dude.
I know, we're all jealous of Justin.
Yeah.
What? Why?
He's got that streamer voice that just keeps bringing people back.
Why would anyone be jealous? Why would anyone be jealous of me? I walked into work the other day and someone said, "Hey, I don't mean to give you a hard time." I said, "Let me stop you right there. You don't need to give me a hard time. I brought one with me." So yeah, no, yeah, miss you guys. Miss all the guys in chat. Is Destiny still a thing?
It is.
Score.
I hope so.
See, even Gavin's like, yeah. Come on, Dad.
If Gavin can't buy it with V-Bucks, he doesn't care about it.
Oh, Fortnite.
Yeah.
When was the last time I played Fortnite?
Wow, getting called out, Dad.
Maybe a little bit. Well, I'm gonna go before he has a nervous breakdown. I'll catch y'all later. Hey, have a good show. Pins.
Thanks,
Pins.
Justin.
Good luck on the carry. Get that backpack out.
The big
Do all
sigh.
the good work.
Yes. See you,
Love you
Justin.
guys. Y'all be good. Now that I didn't realize that Discord, I guess I updated my phone and my credentials. I needed to re-verify my login or whatever with Discord.
Yeah. Okay.
So now I'll get Discord notifications. So I won't be such a mindless thoughtless person, and I'll respond to your messages.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right, guys. Have a good
Fortnite
show.
shaming.
You too,
All right.
or have a good night.
Take care, Justin.
Have a good show, guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Be quiet.
Hush.
How do I get out of here?
There's a little hang up symbol, a phone with an X.
Oh, okay, cool. See you guys. You're out of the
Bye.
will.
Bye.
How do I hang up?
How do I do this thing?
The internet's not working. Justin,
have an internet.
you're emailing me. Yeah, I know, but the internet's not working.
Oh my goodness.
Well, at least he sounded normal. He didn't have a voice modulator on.
That's because he
Kind of
wasn't on his.
sad.
That's because he wasn't on his computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very true. Oh man. That voice I have not heard in a long ass time.
Yeah, I logged in, or I signed in. I looked over and I was like, "Wait a second."
Yeah, as soon as he was like, wait a minute, who, what? Huh?
I was like, "What are you doing here?" You.
Stranger, what you doing? What you showing up for? Why didn't we take A? There we go. Now I'm taking A. So Scout Meta's back.
Yay! Pins. They said you're kind of quiet.
I'm kind of quiet. Here. Okay, give me a second.
It's your mic. Oh man. Fudge. Monkey.
That any better?
I
There we
think
go.
it is.
Yeah, we're currently semi sort of puppy sitting today, or I puppy sat today. So it's gonna be a night. She's supposed to be over here eventually, so that'll help.
No worries. Let's see. Okay, all right. Top 3. Do you want me to play the intro, outro stingers, or are you just good to jump in and start?
Do you? I'm just good to jump in and start. I
Okay,
can
cool.
do it without
'Cause
the
it's-
singers.
I can then
Okay.
I can audit, or I can edit. God, I'm fucking audit. My brain is still
Edit.
stuck at I'm still stuck at work.
Yeah.
I can edit
Let me-
the volumes so that
Sure.
it's less
Jarring.
yes, that thing that you know what I'm talking about.
I have a degree in reading people's minds.
That's good.
Yours and my mother's specifically. So don't ask why it's just you and my mom. It's weird, but whatever.
I'll take it.
Uh,
Makes it easier
yeah.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, let me make sure I'm not queuing into another Crucible match, and then I will start it.
All right, I'll go ahead and kick off the
Recording.
Yep, there it goes.
Okay. Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion, you know where to hit us up at Twitter, Discord, at gmail.com for Focus Fire Chat. This week, we've been a few weeks, but this week we're actually discussing our top 3 people that inspire or motivate us to be better. So, that being said, it's a fairly uncontroversial one. There's not a whole lot of sandwiches showing up randomly or anything like that. And if you were just in live chat with us, we actually had a long lost host show up for just a hot minute there. Justin popped into chat and said hi, and he's excited about next week's top 3, so we might get him on there for that. But this week, we have a special guest in that we have our resident Halo lore galore, Mr. Penn's Halo. And Penn's, I'm actually going to have you go first for us. So what is
Okay.
your number 3?
Well, it's not really a person, but it's actually the movie The Longest Day, which at the time it had all the big names in it: John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, um, and whatnot. And the reason that is because it actually started my interest in joining the military, which I eventually did. So that I caught that movie on a Sunday afternoon one time on TV, and yeah, I was hooked. So that's one that's what I always point back to whenever people ask how I got started enjoying them, an interest in joining the military, and that one was it.
Okay. So it's just it led you into kind of wanting to serve.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing of D-Day and that whole thing of um, I think the phrase was it uncommon valor was a common virtue.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of fits it. Just a massive undertaking, and from uh, Canadians, British, the French that were involved, the U.S. troops, of course, paratroopers, all that story just it had me riveted, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to do that.
Nice.
I want to serve like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of that's where it came from. So
Yeah. It's so funny how movies or like music can inspire you to do something different. Funny little story. I have a really bad habit of after I watch a movie, I immediately want to go and act like mainly it's like the heroine of the show or whatnot. I want to go act out that kind of lifestyle. Like if it's, I don't know, not a movie, but like Xena, I want to go work out and be like the strong person. I don't. Movies are well done. Movies do that, and I like that kind of thing. Blue. What's
All right.
your number 3?
So fair warning, I was not aware that it had to be an individual. I thought it was just like motivational or inspirational things. So
okay, I mean,
none of mine are
easily.
people.
I'll be the odd one out. It's
Okay,
totally fine.
all right. I mean, I can revamp them on the fly if we need to, but so my number 3 is honestly anybody who follows me over on Twitter won't be surprised, but I really like being a pretty prolific reader. One of the biggest things that I find motivates me is just quotes, like different statements from various people. There's not like I can't really tell you like, oh yeah, this particular quote is like 100% always my motivation, because that's not how my brain works, I guess. So like I try to every day just have a quote in the back of my mind, and what I've started doing, I think, God man, it's been 2 or 3 years now. One of the first things I started doing when I really started trying to get more active on social media was I started sharing those. And I, every now and then I'm like, I don't know if people really care about it, but it seems like every time I start being like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it, because I don't want to, I don't want to pester people, which, it's kind of a weird thing, because that's kind of what social media is designed to be, is a constant pestering, I feel like. But every time I have kind of started being like, I don't know if I really think this is like helping me, like it, I don't know. Every time, without fail, I get messaged by somebody who is like, thanks for sharing that. That really helped. And I was like, I'm like, okay, cool. It takes like 30 seconds out of my day, and if it helps someone else, then I think that's worth it. But I find that the nice thing and the beauty of quotes is that things have been said multiple times already. Like there's arguably not a lot of original content out there anymore. And instead of trying to reword something, and try to find a clever way, it's better to kind of, learn from those who have come before us. And I've always just found that to be the easiest way to kind of express, thoughts and kind of also try to help guide my mindset. One of the things is, we, as most people know, we're pretty close with the Saint 14 guys, or I guess it's Project Guardian now. I think they just went through a revamp of that, but like mental health is a big thing. I studied psychology for a large part of my educational life, and I deal with a lot of depression and stuff like that as well, just personally. And so one of the big components of dealing with that successfully is actively reshaping how you look at things. It's helping shift your paradigm so that instead of focusing on the negative, you try to focus on the positive. And quotes just kind of help, start the day. It's just it's a way of, before the day even starts, it's kind of guiding how the day is going to go. And that has, over the past a long while, even before I started sharing them online, that was a trick that I'd always do, is just, it was just like a daily thing to kind of like, it's not like a daily affirmation, but it kind of is. It's just something to kind of help start that process of, hey, no, we're going to focus on this aspect. That's really kind of a lot of my top 3 for tonight, actually, is going to be that kind of concept.
Okay.
Well, words have so much power, and especially if they're well put together. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
and I really, I don't know, like there's so many things out there that are just, to kind of get
thoughtful.
a little, well, there's that, but I mean, just to go a little cheesy too, it's just, there's so many things that have been so beautifully said, and if you don't like hunt them down and read them, they will be lost. And if I can, in some small way, also part of me is thinking, if I can somehow make some random person be aware of something that they didn't know of before, I think that's kind of also, I think that's important. I think that will help in the long run too, because if you have an introduction to, like Herodotus or Plato or Aristotle or Shakespeare. I don't do a lot of Shakespeare quotes because I'm not a huge fan of him. But like
Shakespeare has some great.
Like
insults.
my
insults would be what I would post from Shakespeare.
My brother actually, he gets us every year for Christmas, we get desk calendars from him, and that's what he got me this year, was the Shakespearean insult calendar.
They're so great.
Oh my gosh, they're hilarious. But and so like, yeah, I mean, I've been chuckling. It brings a smile. Like, just the play on words is the guy. Shakespeare is by far a genius. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that, but like for like the motivational stuff, I just find myself always kind of more, and it's not. I really don't. I don't go with like the cheesy, you can do it, like I call them demotivators, but like the motivational poster thing. I don't do that. I try to have something with some substance in it. Like, whether it's like recently I've been on kind of a kick about like the concept of justice, legal justice. Like, like how you should try to be. Like how a good person should try to be a just person. And I just find that I get every now and then I'll just get random people who are like, I really like this. And I have no knowledge of who these people are, but it's, it's something out there. And my thought is like, if I can in some small way introduce a new person or a person to a new thinker or a new author, and then that helps them, find, because books are just like, books are real life magic, right? I think it's Carl Sagan who I think it was Sagan who made the comment about like, books are just like portals. They're time travel devices.
Yeah, they put you into a different world.
And they're just that is in itself, that is real magic. Like that is something, words are, depends, you said it, words are powerful. And I don't know, I've always felt that. And so that's just something that's kind of a way it's manifested.
Sorry, answering one thing on chat real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I saw that as well.
Um, so my number 3 is actually kind of similar, and I switch mine up on the fly since I'm the odd woman out at this point. But you post out your quotes daily, which I do. I have your Twitter alerted on my phone every morning, and I do get to see those, which is helpful. And I like quotes too, but my thing that I like to tweet out are space images
Yes.
because there's
Yeah.
nothing more humbling in some respects than seeing just the crazy things out in space, whether it is like from Earth's perspective or from like the Hubble telescope or even the infrared scopes where they're capturing infrared images. I I will admit I kind of cheat. I have it set up where it'll auto tweet out from NASA when they post something. So I'm not actually going out and finding these images, but when they do pop up on my timeline, I get an alert and I get to go see them as well. So I I like seeing them. I know a few people who follow me online enjoy them as well, and it's something that just helps put things in perspective a little bit on how little I am compared to everything else. I mean, I'm a little person in general, but the world is a big place and space even bigger.
On
I still
that,
think you could.
go for it,
Go ahead.
Prince.
Go. No, I was just going to say, I don't think you can go wrong with any image from NASA because they're all
There's
majestic, frankly.
There's a reason that there is a huge subreddit dedicated to that thing. Period. Like there's so many and it's one of the more popular subreddits too, because what a lot of people will do is they'll have their phones set to automatically update whenever that subreddit posts a new picture. And it does I think it does a similar thing probably to what you have set up, Green. And there's some just, oh my gosh, they're just speechless is the best way to describe some of them. But there is actually I was going to say I'm trying really quickly to find it. There is a Twitter account that they take the Crooked Cosmos. Have you seen this?
I haven't.
So it's a concept called glitch art. It's really cool. So what this guy does is he takes pictures from of NASA. He takes pictures from NASA, and then he has an AI or a logarithm that runs, and it basically pixel sorts the pictures.
Yeah.
And so I'll share it with chat, and then you know what? I'll actually put them in the show notes for this one too.
Yeah,
but,
they're really pretty.
Oh my god! Well,
it's like brush strokes of space. With
but
the first one is wow.
Oh yeah, well, and like he's been doing it for a couple. 2016 was when he started, and this is one of the few accounts on social media that I have specifically set up a audit tracker. No, I have an audit tracker.
Oh really?
So every single time he posts a new picture, I have it sent, and I have a link established into a Google Drive document. Because I'll be honest, some of these pictures have actually helped with creating banners for Focus Fire.
That makes sense.
It's for, if you read, like if you go back into the history of this particular account, like really far back, he kind of explains like the logarithm concept of what it is. And it's it's not simple, but it's also not like, he's not like breaking the fourth wall or like, doing anything super complicated. But he's taking different pictures of like nebulas and stuff like that. And then he's applying the pixel shaders or like pixel shifts to them. And it's just, And then, so like, it's called glitch art is apparently this genre of art, and it's all over the place. Like if you start looking for glitch art, apparently it's apparently a large thing. I have no idea. But like his profile picture is like still one of my favorite ones. But as soon as you said that, I was like, I need to make sure I bring this up, because this guy has it's just amazing stuff.
It's just, there's a reason why it's still fascinating to everybody. The unexplored frontier, the unknown. Anyway, that actually takes us to our number 2. So Pens, would you like to kick this one off?
Well, sticking on the theme of words, it's the poem "If" by Rudyard Kipling.
Okay.
I I never had to actually read this in school, but I ended up, can't remember why, I picked up a book of poetry and it kind of just was leafing through it. And I came across this one and I read it. Because was it? Yeah, Kipling did on Flanders Fields. Yeah, which is a World War One poem, which is really awesome as well. Um, but I started reading through it, and it just struck a chord with me. The whole idea of don't let yourself get too high or too low. Try to stay balanced. Um, and essentially, it's just how to be a good person, really. And like I said, it just struck a chord with me. And there are many times, especially in IT, I'm sitting on the phone with a customer about ready to rip his head off, and all I can think of, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing, they're blaming it on you. It's like, yeah, if you're in IT, that fits.
Nice. I need to actually look that poem up because I don't think I've ever read that one. I did poetry reading in high school too, so I had to do a lot of searching. Kipling was not one I looked at. Do you have a link to it real quick, or do you want me just kind of
Yeah,
dig
here,
while
hold
Blue
on.
goes?
Nope, got it.
Awesome. Thank you. Blue, can you go ahead and do your number 2 while I'm reading through the poems?
My number 2 is actually kind of a toss-up. In general, it's you kind of commented about this before, Green, but it's music. I do a lot of just like background music. Glitch hop is one of my big favorites, just because the sensation that the electronica is usually the genre that I kind of gravitate towards. For no other reason than it kind of is. I've never heard like a sad electronica music. Like, it's that genre is not really designed for that emotion. Like, there can be some lyrical stuff that's not super happy, but like the actual music is always got, it's always got that beat. It's always got an uplifting beat. And so that's, again, kind of going back to, just subconsciously kind of helping orient my mental state there.
Nice.
The other thing actually is talking a little bit again about poetry, is Desiderata. Desiderata is a poem that actually the history is not really known at all. It was basically just found. I think technically, the last time I think it was argued is it's from the 1920s, by, I think it's Max Ehrmann, I think is what a lot of people are kind of attributing it to, but a lot of times you'll see it as like, we don't know. But it's also a really, desiderata is Latin for desired things. It's just it's kind of similar to the poem that Pins was actually talking about. It's just talking about like acceptance, like just going through life with a calmness. Like, it's not like there's nothing. I think one of the lines is, "Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with everybody." It's not, don't sacrifice what you know is to be true, but also don't like antagonize people, really, is what a lot of it is about. And it's something that I've read that poem for a long time. It's a constant. I have that poem framed in a number of rooms in my house because I just find that text so kind of soothing to read as well. So yeah, that would be my number 2.
Nice. I don't actually have any poems or necessarily like short text that I find super, super uplifting. I tend to be like long book series that I'm like really pumped up to read a lot of times. Like, there's a few different book series that I specifically have reread probably 6 or 7 times at this point, easily. Um, Beard talked about reading through Art of War kind of on a yearly basis. I almost feel like I'm doing that with two different series now. The uh, Kushal's Dart series, or the Stormlight Chronicles by Brandon Sanderson. Sanderson's one is definitely super motivating and uplifting because he pulls his characters that have such incredible flaws, and instead of like overcoming quote unquote those flaws, he uses those to help shape not only the world around them, but also be able to utilize those quirks that they have and overcome things in the world, which I think is brilliant because it just shows the inclusion of all of that. As far as my number two, and that's just me kind of getting off on a rant. My number two is something my wife has to make me do every once in a while. And then once I'm actually doing it, it feels great. And I think that I should do it more often. And then it goes for a while before I have to do it again, which is going hiking or going out and hanging out in nature, whether I've got my feet in like a mountain stream, or hiking through the mountains, hiking in snow, being out in nature where there's lots of trees and kind of that comfort of being out and about. Water is something I specifically crave after a little bit of time. Just
The
being,
sound.
well, not just the sound, like even being in it. Like the sound is super soothing, but if I were to just listen to an audio track of water, I get really annoyed because
Oh, okay.
that doesn't do it for me, because it's not actually happening. My mother had my brothers essentially helped her dig out a pond in our backyard when I was growing up, and the waterfall there was even enough for me to just kind of sit out and watch it and just watch how it moves. It was always soothing that way. So mountain streams, mountain air, mountain hiking. I grew up in Kansas, so this doesn't make any such a big thing for me, but it is. It is something that really helps my psyche and kind of decompress and get out of the internet world for a little while, because I'm here a lot. But
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when Aaron and I went to Sedona.
oh, such a beautiful city. Weird city.
Yeah,
Super weird.
a little bit.
Um,
Well, I mean, but just where we were, just hearing the wind, the trees in the canyons and whatnot, and watching the light as you watch the sun move, and watching light travel across the red rock.
mhm.
Just yeah.
It's a neat little town. Did you hike up and to see the trees and how they twist?
No, we
There?
really didn't do that, but we did take a jeep tour into the Coconino National Forest, so I did get
Ooh,
to see some of that. That was pretty cool.
nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Sedona, I don't think I would ever live in Sedona. It's way too warm for my taste, but it's a really pretty area. And if you are traveling through Arizona, that is a nice place to stop because it's not as hot as the majority of Arizona, but there's a little bit of that, and there's a lot of art, and there's this really neat Catholic chapel actually that Julie and I went to while we were there.
Yep.
Chapel on the Rock, I think is what it was called.
The Chapel of the Red Rocks. It's
Yes.
actually it actually is a true chapel.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful up there. Yeah.
It's very pretty. It's very naturally built, unlike your typical cathedrals or your typical Catholic churches where you have that kind of that column with the two alcoves built. It's very much so natural, and a lot of natural light and everything is going through it, which is a unique and beautiful experience for
And
sure.
there is the most god awful looking house just below it.
Yeah, there is, obscuring the view because
It's just
too much money.
yes. I mean, when we were there last time, it's like we were talking to somebody. It's like, yeah, that's actually somebody's house. And it's like, who would put that there? And it's like, yeah, a prick. That's who did it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that actually brings us to our number ones. You ready, Pins?
Yep. Okay, here's where I sound like a sap. It's going to be Erin, my wife.
Yay!
I've said this a lot, and it's actually a line that was originally used to describe, for anyone who remembers X-Files when it was actually good. It was a description that David Duchovny said that Scully was Mulder's human credentials, and that's what Erin is for me. Everything changed when I met her, and she just makes me want to be better. And I mean, like with any couples, we have our disagreements, we have our arguments, but she's amazing, and she puts up with me quite a bit. And when I told her that I'm on a podcast, tonight, she kind of looked at me and went, "You got school tomorrow. What are you going to do?" It's like you just and she accepts when she goes. It's like, okay, I'm going to go downstairs. She goes, fine, all right.
Yeah.
But no, So it's sappy and whatnot, but she definitely is what helps keeps me getting up in the morning, keeps me going. So yeah.
Yeah. My wife pokes me. She's the one that is pushing me to do things that I wouldn't do myself all the time. And
she was actually my sounding board for whenever I was going back and forth about going back to school.
Mm-hmm. Family's important.
Oh yeah. She was. She played a little bit of devil's advocate and whatnot, and kind of challenged me to make sure this wasn't just something to do, and that I really wanted to do it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Blue? Can you follow up the wife thing with pins?
Yeah, mine is going to be actually kind of similar. It's going to be my family, especially, my wife, my son, because, I think it's a common thing for those of us who have a family or who have someone, special in their lives, a significant other, what have you. I think there's an inherent drive to be better if you're in that type of situation, because you want to give the best, especially with children. I find a lot of my friends who are parents, as opposed to my friends who aren't parents, if you ask them, hey, what makes you do what you do, and what gives you the strength or the strength, I guess, to get through like the grief of each day, a lot of times they're gonna say the kid, or the family, because there's an inherent drive to give the best, to leave the best, to make the world a better spot for that. And I think that, for me, definitely that's a huge reason that I do what I do, throughout the day, is because I know that it allows me to give what I can back to my family. And I think, for me, I don't know, that might be just my personality, but for me, that lets me get the strength to put my head down and deal with a lot of grief and a lot of, friction, stress, whatever word you want to use for it, whatever particular sentence enhancer, as I called it earlier in chat, you want to use for it. At the end of the day, sometimes it's just about putting your head down and getting through it. And I know that's not like super helpful. I know that's why I'm not a motivational speaker. Because my response to a lot of times when people are asking me, like, how do you put up with that? And it's like, I just grit my teeth and get through it. Like, I know it's not helpful. I know that a lot of people don't have that mentality, as far as like, I want to call it like pragmatism, but it's really just kind of stubbornness.
Yeah, it probably is a little bit more on the stubborn side, where
I mean, you can call me bullheaded, and I probably wouldn't be too offended. I'd probably agree with you, probably honestly, because for me, it's just a matter of like I'm like, no, this needs to get done in order for whatever it is that I'm having to do. But I don't know. Yeah, for me, my number one motivator is my family.
Honestly, I think that's for all of us in one way, shape, or form. I was talking about Julie a little bit ago and how she encourages me to try different things. But my number one on top of that is actually somebody who's been passed away and out of my life technically since I was 7. And it's my grandmother. My grandmother is somebody I learned more about as I got older, and was an incredibly strong woman who went through a lot more than I knew at the time. She uh, basically ran away from home, made a lot of mistakes, had my aunt, who I found out about when I was in junior high, gave my aunt up for adoption, then had my mother and moved to Colorado. And she was basically a single mother in the 60s, which is not an easy thing to do,
Yeah,
or
wow.
wasn't. Yeah. And she
Dang.
helped raise my mom, and then my papa came into the picture and adopted her and everything. But she was not shy. She was a looker. She was not shy about getting what she wanted and what she needed and making sure things happened no matter what it took. And so her story has always kind of helped me. And she died when I was very young, to ovarian cancer, had breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And she was kind of my best friend for those first 7 years of my life. And all the way through high school, every single performance I went out on and did, I don't know if I would call it praying, but I basically kind of talk to her and dedicate things to her, and kind of still continue to do so, and just try to live up to her orneriness and her free spiritedness. And I mean,
It's a good thing.
she's an
It's a
important
good
person.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's an important person. She doesn't take crap from anybody. And I think that's a wonderful trait to have. So, yeah, family is super important. Whether it's your wife, your immediate family, or a loved one who passed a while ago. But that
Yeah.
kind of wraps us up for our top 3 this week. It's a little bit of a sad one at the ending, and I'm sorry for that. But next week we're going to talk about family again. And Justin helped pick this topic a little bit while he was here earlier. And we're going to talk about our top 3 favorite family moments or traditions. So we might have some silly, funny stuff, some really beautiful moments next week, but we will definitely have that family connection and just kind of being close and enjoying that kind of thing with each other. So, thank you for joining us for top 3 this week. I appreciate you. You motivate us to do this kind of crazy podcast thing every single week, whether or not we're doing top 3 or we're doing the normal show. You guys are some of our motivators. So be good, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others. And remember, everybody loves a list. And cut.
Yay. All right. Boop, 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 boop.
Mm-hmm. Little bit of a deep one.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Where am I? There it is.
It was funny because as I was trying to put it together real quick, I was thinking of different things like Invictus.
Oh,
ended up on that
Invictus.
list.
Yeah, Invictus is a
Yeah.
good one.
But actually, the other one is the "Be Like Water" speech from Bruce Lee.
you
That
were
was
on a
amazing as
a
well.
kick the other day with that one.
Yes, I know.
Oh, thanks, Vegemite. I try to be inspirational sometimes.
Okay, that's what we did. We did Dishonored last time.
Yes. Yes, we did.
Okay. Okay, you guys good to go? Pens, you ready to start the dissertation?
Yep.
All right.
Ready to-
Okay. Try to remember which episode this is. This is 35. Yes, okay.
Going into extra lore notes.
Yeah, something like that.
It's 35.
35. Okay, awesome. All right. Whew. Welcome back for episode 35 of Extra Lore, recorded live on February 1st. Wow, it's already February 1st. I blanked about that. Over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Our topic for tonight's episode is going to be a look again at Halo. But first, let's run through a quick introduction of those on the show for tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. Next up, we have our own master of social media, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, I hope you're doing well. How has the week treated you so far?
Really, really good. And I'm actually going to announce it kind of for the whole Focus Fire Chat family. I've kind of been dropping hints in different places, but Julie and I are under contract and we're going to close on our very first home here in a less than a month now. We got the inspection done. The contract is set in stone. The only thing that will stop us from getting the house now is ourselves. And if we just freak out and change our minds, which I doubt is going to happen. So lots of crazy things have been happening and I've been super busy with that. But today was the inspection and we got an all clear for it. So I'm in good mood.
Nice. That's always...
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's always great hearing. So, oh man, I'm trying to remember. We've been in our house for 8 years now, 7 years.
Yeah,
and it was still
it's stressful to get to that point.
It is like I remember when we first purchased our house and like the weird combo of stress and adrenaline rushing. Because you know it's not a small purchase.
No, and then you have like you have to deal with like the loan officer and the broker.
Yeah, we're sorry.
And then the inspector,
we're sorry for that. I'll apologize for my coworkers on that one.
Oh my gosh, our loan officer worked his tail off for us. Nice. We literally, to tell you how fast this has happened. Last Tuesday, Julie went and did this first-time homeowners class. We weren't even trying to buy it, we were learning about how to buy a house. We hadn't even started to try to buy a house yet. And by Friday, after that Tuesday night class at 9 p.m., by Friday, we had our loan approval.
Nice.
This Wednesday, we had our contract. So we've done this in less than 2 weeks from start to finish.
Yeah, and I know that's in that area too. How's the market though? Is it pretty volatile? Is it pretty fast-paced?
It is. It is a fast-paced market, but we're qualifying for a very specific type of housing that not a lot of people tend to qualify for. So that gave us a leg up.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and that is 100% my wife. She's done this all by herself in a lot of ways because she's had to do a lot of the financing stuff and all of the loan stuff, and she's been talking to people left and right, and she's a beast. She's an utter beast.
That's awesome. I'm just it's just so awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And of course, as you can probably imagine, when we talk about Halo, we are gonna just hand over the complete, all of the reins to our good friend Pins Halo. Pins, how are you? How are you doing? Glad to have you back because I don't know what we'd do if you weren't here.
I don't know why you guys keep having me back, but I'm glad to be.
We love you. That's why.
And well, thank you. And yeah, trusting me with the keys. It's like, really? Okay, well,
Don't wreck it.
It's okay. It's a short bus. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Pins. You have experience with tanks, right? It's pretty similar.
Oh, yeah.
We have really low turn. We have a really low turn ratio, and we don't move really fast. So
that's only if Justin's
wrong.
here, not here.
Well, considering I drove a 60-ton tank an hour, which is an awesome feeling, by the way. You're yeah. I won't just go off on that, but no, it's been a long week. Glad it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of glad to be here as a nice break. And like I said, I'm always up for talking Halo. So,
well, we enjoy having you here.
Yeah, definitely. So real quick, let's run through standard intros, and then we'll jump right into it. This is where the intro notes will go when I get around to recording them. And then Pins, I'm just gonna hand it. Yeah, you're up now.
Okay. All right. So, again, talk about the Spartans and mainly the entire Spartan program and its history, which is more. I mean, everyone knows about the 2s, the Spartan 3s, and the 4s, but the Spartans actually go back much farther than that. The one thing that I want to just mention here before we go too far down this road, especially with the Spartan 2 and Spartan 3 programs, there is a lot of mention in discussions about those programs about ethical and moral behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it too. You have a tendency to use those, and in reality, they're really two separate items. I mean, ethics are both are used to determine right, wrong, good, bad in its simplest terms. But one is based on a set of rules that are set down. Doctors, lawyers, they have codes of ethics to follow. Morals are more personal beliefs. Now, they may be based upon stuff like a religious tenet or legal ethics, or medical ethics and things of that nature, but it is a personal belief. But that's the morality part. Ethical, again, is based upon set rules. So you can have something that's ethical but is exceedingly questionable on a moral standpoint, and vice versa. So, just you can't go through a talk about the history of the Spartans without that coming up, and kind of put that out there.
I mean, Halsey making some of the decisions she made, the military making their decisions. Yeah, there's going to be some questionable things.
Yeah, and I'll put this out there now. Whenever you're talking about the Spartan program, I'm going to really make an effort. You can't talk about it without mentioning Catherine Halsey.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to try not to get distracted on that and go down that path, because
There's no rabbit hole there.
No.
I mean, we did a whole episode on it.
It's a black hole. It's what it is. It'll suck me in, and I won't. That's what'll happen. Okay.
If you'd like to hear that episode, check out one of our former episodes with Pins Halo, where we talk explicitly for about 3 hours about Catherine Halsey.
Yes, and we didn't even really get all the way.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
All right, so the roots of the Spartan program actually in the Halo universe actually go back up through the 20th century and even into the second century. Back when humanity had started to colonize Sol, our solar system, it was discovered that interplanetary travel put a lot of stress on the human body.
Mm-hmm.
So to help cope with that, certain augmentations were given to those spacefarers. Of course, as you have expansion, which happens every time in human history when you have expansion, the colonies at some point in time start to garner their own beliefs and values, and mainly what you started to see in the 22nd century were political factions based upon either communistic ideals, which were known as the Kozloviks, and then the Freedom Movement, which is more of a fascist type ideal. You ended up with a massive civil war that started. And of course, the military, looking for an advantage, started the augmentations that were given just to space travelers were looking to give that to their soldiers to make them better, stronger, faster. Of course, at the time, they were any type of augmentation was, think of it this way: steroids, adrenaline shots, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really on the biochemical level. It was, I guess that would be biochemical for steroids, but no like surgeries for augmentations. That so once at that point in time, once they got through those part of the interplanetary wars, that's kind of when you started to have the next big wave of colonization, which is what would become the inner colonies. So hold on, I'm sorry here. So it was in 2321 that Oni started what they deemed the Orion Project, and it was named after the Greek hero Orion. And its aim was to build upon the research done before on bioengineering and things of that nature to create better, stronger, and faster soldiers. Their initial batch was 5 candidates. They were all volunteers from the military forces, and they went through a number of testing and augmentations. Now, there's no specific text to what type of augmentation they did, but the results really weren't there. And eventually, the project was declared ineffective, and it was shut down. Now, one thing to note is every member of of that experiment, within a year after they were returned back to their units, they all so.
Was it just because of the adult aspect of it at that point? Because I'm trying to remember. I'm remembering back from reading some of the Halo books that it just the augmentations didn't really work with them. Like they weren't able to handle it, or
there's not a lot written about that particular time. There's not a lot of stuff in Halo lore about that particular time, but while there's no specifics, be pretty. It would be safe to say that they probably started moving beyond just the basics, like I said, steroids or adrenaline shots, and getting into some of the enhancements that you would later see in the Orion Project, that founding. And it was probably that they didn't have the technology hadn't advanced enough, and they were dealing with highly experimental drugs that and because it was experimental, they probably had no baseline. So
real quick, Pins, your mic cut out just a little bit there. What happened within a year of their being reintroduced to the unit?
Within a year after they reintroduced to their units, the 5 volunteers all died.
Okay, they all died.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're fine, your friend. Chat.
Okay.
Just wanted to call that out. And the other thing too, remember with the Orion project was that they didn't have Mjolnirs.
Right.
Well, this was actually pre-Orion.
Oh, okay.
This was pre-Orion, yes, which is actually next. So in 2491, at that point in time, it was the colonial military, which oddly enough Oni really wasn't deeply involved at this point. They relaunched Orion. So they did the research, looked at what happened in the past with the 5 soldiers, and wanted to create soldiers who could be deployed behind enemy lines, stop insurgency, things of that. At that point in time, it was headquarters Reach. So what they ended up doing, so what they did, they started off with 65 test subjects. The type of augmentations that done for the Orion were muscular enhancement, pulmonary respiratory enhancement, tuning, mental augmentations to help learning capabilities, so they could adapt faster to the other changes that were into place. Enhanced motor skills, so and things of that nature. Now, unlike that very first test, all 65 of those candidates actually made it all the way through training. And in January of 2496 was the first time a organized group of super soldiers were deployed. It was part of Operation Charlemagne, which was...
Which operation?
Charlemagne.
Okay.
Which was that was in response to, at this point in time, you started to see, again, colonial secessionists. They had initiated a series of attacks on colony, and this was the response to it. Their attack had resulted in numerous deaths, civilian, government officials, things of that nature. So like I said, in January, that was the only time all 65 were deployed en masse, and they scored a decisive victory with casualties.
Okay.
So it wasn't long after that that the UNSC decided to up the funding, and they gained another 100 candidates. So throughout the life of Orion, the individual successes spurred all kinds of stories about the super soldiers. One of the big scores that they have is they were actually able to recover a non-official list of undercover operatives in positions of power within the colonial military administration. And so they were able to purge out enough separatist sympathizers as well, which was also a really big coup for the Orion team. But what ended up happening was the insurgents started to learned how to react, and became more difficult to root out, and their bombings and things of that nature, they became more effective to avoid conflict or meeting up with some of the Orion teams, or coming against that. This, of course, spurred the UNSC to spend more money and add more candidates to the Orion program. At its highest, there were 300 members of Orion. And one of them was a soldier from New Chicago, Avery Johnson, who anyone who's ever played Halo knows who Johnson is.
I know what the ladies like.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm. What did it say? 60 tons of divine intervention.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Divine intervention.
It's like, was it? If giving is love, you can call me stupid.
Oh my goodness. Pens.
For
I
a
don't know if I
brick.
can handle. Yeah, it's
For
like
a brick, he
stop.
flew pretty good.
Pretty good.
God.
Okay.
Divine intervention.
So yes, before I go down that road, but one of the things that they started to see, and you're Vegemite, yeah, you're right. Without Johnson, Halo 2 specifically, um, what they started to see though in the late 25th century, was that some of the members of Orion, even though there was a ton of success, they started to. There were some flaws that started to come out. There was a lot of PTSD that was appearing. A lot of the soldiers latent sympathies towards the rebels, so they were becoming, they weren't as effective, and they even started having those that went through that some of the later batches, some that went through augmentation. After they would go through augmentation, there'd be a post training. They refused to do that, and so they would be incarcerated. In So even with all the success that Orion had, scientists kind of still felt that they fell short of the hope. They thought that even as good as they were, they thought they'd be better.
Okay.
And again, because what would later be determined as because of the candidates, the genetic modifications and the immunosuppressants that were supposed to be put in place, they failed.
Okay.
So you started trying to have a lot of physical problems, a lot of mental problems, and break down. So this was kind of marking the tail end of the Orion project. One of the last major operations was Operation Kaleidoscope. It was The goal was to eliminate a leader of the Secessionist Union, one of the groups, and by the name of Gerald Ander. And the assassination was carried out by then Corporal Avery Johnson. Because he was such a key leader, it actually broke that portion, the Secessionist Union.
Mm-hmm.
But it really didn't pacify the outer colonies, but it did put a big dent in. So as by 2506, Orion was there were 165 remaining. Some of them were really starting to show problems, degenerative medical issues, physical, mental issues. Those that were still able to contribute and function normally were reassigned to other special operations. Again, one of those was Avery Johnson. He continued to serve until he was in his 70s when he died, which was 4 decades after Orion was ended. In many cases, some of the issues that the Orion candidate showed was stemmed as what became known as Boren syndrome.
Okay. What is that? Like, is it just specifically because of all of this, or like, what are the symptoms of it?
It's a neurological condition. It was used mainly as a cover up by ONI.
Okay.
Tumors, migraine, you know, this things of that nature. Again, many of the side effects that were that came from the Orion program, the physical problems, the degenerative problems, the those kind of breakdowns, they were all kind of lumped in as Boren syndrome. And there was some talk that that's actually those augmentations are why Johnson may not have been infected with the flood at the end of
Okay.
Halo CE.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think that's actually ever been verified. I think that was a fan theory, but it's one all of us love to actually kind of hold on because it just makes Johnson ass. So, at that point in time, with the cancellation of the Orion program, what ended up happening is Oni and the UNSC, they kept tinkering, researching, and whatnot, but they weren't there. They weren't willing to spend the money on it. Especially because while they had a lot of success, they felt that it wasn't enough to justify keep going with it. Especially once you started seeing problems with, you've got these essentially super soldiers that are flawed,
Right.
and you couldn't control. Especially, if you had some that started sympathizing with the rebels, what happens if they decide to go over the rebels? So what ended up happening is 4 years after the closeout of Orion, a scientist by the name of Elias Carver. I'm sorry, this was in the late. This is 20. This was late in the 25th century. Elias Carver came up with this. He was a scientist who worked with Oni, and came up with this finding that predicted an outbreak of major hostility throughout the colonized human colonized space.
Okay.
To the point where millions would die. It would last years, and the only way to really stop it would be to try to nip it in the bud sooner rather than later. It was more predictive kind of thing.
Kind of like somebody we know in the Destiny universe who predicted that the darkness would come.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind
of.
Yeah, but a little
Kinda
bit more
sorta, yeah.
wishy-washy too, because it was a little political in nature as well with this particular individual.
Okay.
Yeah, and Oni actually did their own evaluation, and they did their own research, and they found that the findings matched up based
Okay.
upon. Now they were still basing it upon Carver's theory,
Mhm.
but it showed that eventually there would be a massive war. Now, this kind of made Carver a darling of the UNSC and the Colonial Military Administration. So he did a lot of speeches, and went and visited colleges, and essentially was like a paid speaker for that. So and and he actually would become very high in demand. So in 2507, he would be speaking at one of the a college and a social mixer, where a particular 15-year-old prodigy who had read everything up on Carver came up to him and told him that while the theory was right, he was using the um, parameters. Carver was
Okay.
basing everything off of 7. This
So
prodigy,
shocker.
this prodigy said, no, you needed to use 16.
Which
What
number?
was it?
16.
Okay.
So,
And this prodigy did that in their head.
yes, pretty much. So, yeah, obviously Carver didn't really like being called out by, a 15-year-old, no matter the fact that they were working on their second doctorate at the time, and just kind of straight up dismissed the person. 3 guesses on who it is, and the first.
Halsey?
Yes.
This doesn't end well, though, for any of them.
No, it doesn't. Not in the least. It is, like I said before, you kind of have to touch on Halsey, but I'll try not to go down the rabbit. One of the things that Halsey said, I mean, at that time, even she admitted in her journal that she was a bit brash. And
She was young.
Well, yeah.
Well, and the consequence of this confrontation is kind of something that haunts her, too.
Yes. It ended up that I think within a couple of years after that meeting, Carver killed himself. What he started to question was, did he actually predict that this was going to happen no matter what?
Or did he cause it?
Yes, that was the whole thing. And he could not reconcile that. And it drove him to the point where he would kill himself. So, quick background on Halsey. She was born in Outer 20. Obviously, she was a prodigy. She attended the Endymion Gifted Academy, which was her home world. And she caught the eye of the Dean of Biological Science at the Cultured Browning University on the World of Circumstance.
She was born on, you said, the Outer Colonies?
Yes. That's one of the neat ironies of the whole thing.
Oh God, yeah.
She came from the Outer Colonies, yet once we kind of get into it, almost all the Spartans were kidnapped that were Spartan 2s were kidnapped from Outer Colony worlds. It's probably more of a coincidence than anything based upon how they were chosen and the method that they used to choose them. But it's still one of those interesting little notes there about that. So like I said, in 2501, the dean essentially offered her a trip to the university where she would start studying. They completely funded her education. He said she completed her second thesis, and it was at this point that she met the meeting with Carver happened. It was also at that meeting that she caught the eye of Oni officer Captain Michael Stanforth, who eventually would be Admiral Stanforth in charge of Oni Division 3.
Okay.
Which is the one that actually was in charge of the Spartan program. The funny thing was, Halsey was actually looking to do research in AI, and that's really what she was trying to get funding for. How to make AI more effective. How do they last long? So, as part of the preliminaries, or as part of the approval process for that, the UNSC had said, "Okay, we'll give you the money, but we need you to do this model test." And the model, of course, that they gave her was Carver's. To test to prove that it was true or false. Well, Halsey being Halsey, and based upon the conversation she had before, decided that, okay, she would do it, but what she did is she actually added an extra. She ran it as with the dimensional parameters of 7, but then she also ran it with the 16. And when she ran it using the 16 parameters, it found out that the prediction was that order would break down within 20 years. Carver's said within 20 years. Carver's said it would last at least 30 years and at least 5 billion dead. And that was the minimum. The max, another dark age.
Hey, Pins, real quick. Can you try refreshing your connection, because you're breaking up a little bit on that last piece, and I know that's a really important piece. So just real quick, if we can.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No. I just want to make sure that we get that on the recording, because it is a rather important piece.
Okay, so here, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Maybe if you disconnect and reconnect the voice connection, we won't hit the little dropout
stutter.
Yeah, I'm seeing something here. 1 second, I think.
Or maybe it's a gate that's on the audio feed.
No, I think it might have been because I had stream up, and I think that just jacked my thing up.
Oh, okay.
So let me try this. Let's try this. If it doesn't happen, then what I'll do is I'll disconnect and reconnect.
Okay, perfect.
And
yeah,
we'll
so
see if that fixes it. Sorry about that.
No. You're fine. So if you want, let's roll back to where you were talking about Halsey was looking at the experiment or the theory,
the calculation difference between her and
Carver. Halsey. Okay. So like I said, Halsey was looking for funding for her AI research. Well, before she would be given that funding, the UNSC said, okay, we need you to proof this model. The model that they wanted her to proof was Carver's. Halsey, being Halsey, decided to evaluate it using Carver's model, which was using the basis of 7, and she also ran it using her basis of 16. When these ran, Carver's model showed that using the 7 parameters would show that war would break out within 20 years. Her model of using 16 said it would be much sooner, within a decade, and then that the minimum would be 30 years of war and 5 billion dead. The maximum would be pretty much a new another dark age.
That's intense. And this is to the point where they were already spread across the galaxy, not the galaxy, but Sol specifically, right? They were in the outer colonies and everything.
I think
this point.
They were actually. They were kind of across the galaxy too.
They had
harvest planets, and that's where the outer colonies. That's why part of the because remember, this is the inner versus outer colonies. The innies and the outers were they were starting to run into resource crunch. Really, is also what was going on too.
Okay.
So it's a taxation situation, kind of. The outer colonies weren't getting the prestigious treatment that the inner colonies would get or Earth would get, but they were providing a lot of. It's a pretty standard, imperial conquest expansion thing, and then your outer colonies start getting a little jealous because they're doing all the hard work, and the inner colonies are reaping all the benefits, which is where the model that Pins is kind of talking about. That's kind of where you see the political dangers, and that's why ultimately the original thinker commits suicide, right? Is because he's like, did I create this problem, or did I just recognize the pattern?
Yeah. And not really being a scientist, but you can kind of see where anyone who puts that kind of theory out that says, okay, we're predicting this, to avoid it we need to do this. Okay, well, the question is, in your actions of doing it, do you actually cause what's occurring or not?
Is your prediction a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah, pretty much. So, and just one thing of note, the initial wave of colonization and what became the inner colonies, the UNSC and United Earth government actually had a very tight control over who was colonizing, which made them a little less likely to be rebellious. There still was some, but not nowhere nearly as much. The second wave, it really wasn't the best and brightest anymore. It was those people who were looking to get away from something, escape from something, who were bristling underneath the control of the UNSC or the UEG. So it was a little bit more ripe for rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you also had they were being moved out to agrarian. You know, they didn't
Right.
need the best and brightest because they had machines to do the thinking. They just needed muscle.
Pretty much.
They just
yeah.
needed people to pick up stuff and move it.
Mm-hmm. So Halsey goes ahead and presents this to Oni, and what she found out at that time was that Oni actually had redone everything, essentially mirrored her work. Or let me back up here. Oni had been working on this for about 3 or 4 years and spent a ton of money and essentially came up with the same idea that she did, that it was going to happen a lot sooner. It was going to be a lot worse than what Carver had predicted. So this is just my opinion. It's my belief that Oni did this deliberately. Someone young and idealistic like Halsey, who was, driven, and especially one that they wanted to bring in, but they knew they couldn't straight recruit her. They essentially needed her to convince herself to be recruited. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think they essentially even against.
You mean Oni had an ulterior motive? What?
Go
Shocker.
Figure. Shocking. I mean, a lot of her mentors and everything really didn't want she, Halsey being Halsey, decided she was going to do that. So, while she did also do work on AI work, which was what her initial thing was, what she did also do was review the Orion program and to see what its shortcomings were and how you avoid those shortcomings in the future. Now, this is where lays the entire ground for the Spartan 2 program. And it's important to note that at this time, this was all still theoretical. And Halsey herself really wasn't sure if this was the right way to go. So she had 3 main points. The first one was the United candidates were too. At that point in time, the body wasn't able to adapt to all of the augmentations that had to be done. So the only way to avoid that was, and the fragmentation, especially what happened later on, was they had to use a group had to be of an age where their DNA was more malleable and quicker to adjust and to repair. The second part was the genetic screening of the Orion project, the Orion candidate. They just called out for volunteers, came in, did some real basic tests, blood tests, compatibility, things of that nature, but not the real in-depth kind of research and evaluation that you, if you want to get the most out of patient, do. And now the question was, how do you get this? And her thought was to use the outer colony vaccination program, because the outer colonies, they didn't like anything, they were very much against, the inner colonies, all the rules for the Colonial Administration Authority, the UNSC. But the one thing they would do is accept vaccinations. So you had this massive database of most of the entire population of the outer colonies that you could use. You could set the standards and then just run a program to find those people that match that standard.
Mm-hmm.
Because this isn't a conspiracy theorist like wet dream at all.
No, not in the least.
Oh, that's
The
terrifying.
anti-vaxxers, yeah.
Right, but I mean, but at the same time,
No,
it's
no.
like from a data standpoint, she's like, correct.
Oh yeah. And the last thing was, like I said, it was found that a lot of the sympathies to the insurgents, again, to the point where some of them refused to participate in some of the post-augmentation training and were in jail. So, to avoid that, the candidates needed to be indoctrinated. Now, this is not brainwashing. It is more strict training and development and things of that nature. Although you might argue that is a form of brainwashing in and of itself, but specifically,
No.
But specifically to the traditional brainwashing kind of thing would not work because people can break that or may break that. So it's more of a instilling a belief and whatnot, which in all fairness, that's what most militaries do during camp.
Mm-hmm.
They indoctrinate you. You know, it's training. It's, if you do stuff good, get stuff. The basics of if you do well, you get stuff. If you do poorly, you're doing push-ups forever.
Right, but the difference here is that that's not being done to like 5-year-olds.
Correct. Now, in closeout of this, based upon everything, what they needed to do was get young children to do this because they're young enough that their DNA is malleable. It would repair much better. They would accept the augmentations better. Or they'd be able to adapt them faster. And then training from a young age, yeah, you could indoctrinate them. Now, and I remember saying this in the hall. I'm going to say it again. One of the key things, and this is in Halsey's journal, she admitted that from a purely logical and scientific sense, everything made sense. This is what you needed to do. But she herself said that there was so much to reflect on. I need time to think. There were serious moral and ramifications to this. I take it as she wasn't fully convinced to move this. There are some who disagree with me, but that's my thought on it. Now, as a weird twist of fate, about 10 days after she completed her operation, there was a suicide bombing for Freedom and that detonated a nuclear explosive that was packed in cadmium, which is a poisonous metal, on a city on the planet Memorial. This killed 2 million people, injured 8 million more, and essentially rendered the planet nearly uninhabitable.
Okay.
Because,
Can I pause you a second?
Yep.
2 things to clarify. Who detonated it and what planet was it?
I'm sorry. It was the Freedom and Liberation Party. These fell under the umbrella of the insurrectionists.
Okay.
The planet was Mamor, M-A-M-O-R.
Okay.
And like I said, it killed 2 million, injured 8 million more, and essentially rendered the planet uninhabitable because all the radioactive, because the cadmium that was thrown out essentially made
it was like a super dirty bomb,
and poisonous and would lead to birth defects for generations to come. Probably best way to describe it would be, imagine the descriptions of what happened at Nagasaki and Hiroshima, but on a planetary scale.
Yikes.
And it's also on a planet that really wasn't super aggressive to anybody, which was
just randomly?
No, the planet was actually loyal to.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so much worse.
That's why. Oh yeah, no, that's why in
Mhm.
Halsey's journal she like loses her mind in the entry. She's beyond pissed about it
Mm.
because it's. I mean, yeah, that's exactly the thing. Is like who, why
What monsters? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Her exact quote from this is, "How could they commit such an atrocity? And against those who are supposedly, they are insane. They must be stopped. I have to stop this."
Right.
It is at this point that the urgency of the situation makes Halsey move past any ethical or moral quandary she may have, even though they're still present, to say this has to be done. So, okay. Okay, one of the other things that was kind of key to this was secrecy. They had to have secrecy when in implementing this program. They'd actually done a pretty decent job with Orion in keeping things secret. This had to be even more so, especially with the whole idea of, okay, you're going to be using children. Well, parents aren't going to give them up, so you have to kidnap them. But if you kidnap a bunch of children, people are going to kind of notice. So how do you do this? Of a Flash clone. Now, some of it was, and some of it was Holly trying to wage her own guilt over this and to try to give closure to the parents.
By having them die randomly later on because the Flash clone didn't last very long?
Yes,
well,
essentially.
They weren't supposed to last very long.
Right.
There were some that didn't, or some that did.
Oh, really? I thought they all died within
there
like the
was-
first 2 years.
They were supposed to. They were supposed to. There was a couple
Oh.
that was in was it Evolutions that you get the
Yes.
Yeah, there's a
Or-
couple that the Spartans later will go back home and hey, there's a clone there. That's, I think the one in particular was wheelchair bound. And then
Yes,
and then the Spartan commits suicide.
No, actually.
That
one did not.
No, yeah, that's
that
right,
was
that's right.
Daisy. Daisy did
yeah.
not. Yes, okay. That was Daisy 023. No, she didn't commit suicide, but she did return back to the program.
Yeah.
Another really good description of this would be, and I would recommend if people want to get an idea of impressions from the outer colonies on this, would be go listen to Hunt the Truth, which was an audio podcast done by
Noah.
There was a 2 season. Yeah, Noah. Noah Icon. I can't remember who the person was, but it was Keegan Michael Key played the main character in the first season, and where he was doing interviews and was talking to people who quote knew John, and some of the descriptions like how he got sick right away or real soon when he'd always been healthy and things. Those are the kind of like I said, the clones on average lasted about 2 weeks. Another really good description of this is the opening chapter, Tada, which is the third book in the Kilo 5 trilogy. I am not a big fan of that trilogy for my own reasons, but that opening chapter, which talks about Naomi kidnapping, the after effects of her kidnapping and her family, it's really, really good. It's on par. Travis does that on par with her on Human Weakness, which was in Halo Evolutions, and talked about Cortana being tortured by the Gravemind.
Just an amazing.
I would really I would recommend it to get kind of like the other perspective of the parents. Those are the two things that I would say in the Friends. Those are the two places I would recommend people look at. And again, even though Halsey knew this was kind of necessary, she knew that there was no turning back from this. So they went ahead. They went ahead and implemented this program. They 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 implemented this program. And she talked to Vice at this point in time is now Vice Admiral Stanforth to move forward on candidate procurement, as they called it. It is also important to note something here. This plan was approved by all of the senior council of ONI.
Keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind, folks. Yeah. There was a lot of people who knew what was going on.
Oh God, Oni, I.
Oh no. I mean, it's not a surprise what Oni does with this, but it's still it's one of the, like, the major contention points. Is like it's like really you're gonna make that your scapegoat point, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, at this point in time, the project actually had not been yet. It was still being called Orion Project Generation 2, which Halsey never liked, frankly. It just was clunky of a name. But the other part of it was it also rang back to what was seen as a failure of a program. So in looking at it, Halsey was always trying to find a program. In the end, because of the initial proposal was approved for the program, and there were 300 candidates. As part of because of that, she chose the name Spartan, mainly because of Thermopylae. And also about the training Spartans underwent, starting at the age of 7, turning into fierce warriors, and how they would inspect their own babies for health and discard those that weren't, but keep put the ones that were through serious training, which had parallels to what this program was going to do. But Halsey did realize that they wouldn't, that they needed to have some respect paid to the members of Orion, since they made the groundwork for it. So therefore, it was named the Spartan 2 program.
And that's where the Spartan 2 comes from.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Orions are sometimes called Spartan 1. They're officially known as Orion candidates. The Spartan 2s, it's actually the Spartan program. And like I said, the 2 was added on as a nod to the Orions, because it wasn't the first super soldier program.
Okay.
Again, in 2511, the program was originally 300 candidates. Due to funding cutbacks, this was cut back to 150, and then by 2517, it was cut to 75. So, in the years prior to that, ONI would evaluate all of the 150 that they had authorization for. Halsey could not do this all by herself. A number of different members of her team. She did go out and to do some of them, and as most people will know, one of her first stop was to the planet of Eridanus 2 to meet candidate 117, John, who was beating everyone up on a game of King of the Hill.
Oh God.
It's one of the best scenes ever.
It's actually really both the Fall of Reach and the comic book adaptation of that both do it really well. And those are the only ones out there that exist.
Chat was asking about that, and I was like, it does okay.
Okay. So, in August of 2517, the 75 kidnapped placed with clones. They were all drugged, put in cryo, and taken to Reach, to FleetCom military, where they were briefed by Catherine Halsey, Chief Petty Officer Franklin Mendes, AI, who was assisting Halsey in this, by the name of Deja, who was a dumb AI. Real quick, difference between a smart AI is one created from a human brain. A dumb AI is created from essentially just an electrical impulses, and it's truly artificial. There's no organic basic in it. Also, a smart AI has an unlimited learning capacity until it gets about 7 years old. 7 years, at which point in time it essentially thinks itself to death. The memory fills up. Dumb AIs are experts in one very specific category: military history, medical, things of that nature. Deja was a dumb AI that Halsey was using to help train the candidates. During this meeting, Deja had actually suggested maybe they should go ahead and see about brainwashing the children. Halsey overrode this, saying that she felt that lying to the children come back and hurt them. It was better to tell them the truth, or as much of the truth that they could. Because everything that had happened to them, you needed to lay some basis of trust. And I'm going to read this. This is a quote from The Fall of Reach. This was her speech to the 75 candidates. As per Naval Code 45812, name Spartan 2. You have been called upon to serve. You will be trained, and you will become the best we can make of you. You will be the protectors of Earth and all of it. This will be hard to understand, but you cannot return to your parents. This place will become your home. Fellow trainees will be your family now. Training will be difficult. There will be a great deal of hardship on the road ahead, but I know you will make it. Rest now. We begin tomorrow. So,
that's from the.
That's Fall of Reach.
Fall of Reach.
Fall of Reach.
Fall of Reach.
Okay.
As another side note, if you're looking, the Fall of Reach is a great resource for the basic training of the Spartan 2s and kind of like the early days of the. I mean, Halsey's journal has a lot of great information on some of the stuff, but the Fall of Reach is where you get most of like what they actually went through, and it also details some of the training. In essence, other than the fact that they were kids and getting hit by stun batons, their first day of basic training was not much different than my first day of basic training when I was in
Yeah.
A lot of calisthenics, a lot of running, some classroom work, and then, essentially a competition. And then, so again, they went through a bunch of calisthenics. Deja did some training with them and specifically mentioned to discuss the Spartans at the. And then at that point in time, they were taken to an obstacle course and divided into teams. That would be their teams moving forward. And the first team would win. Last team wouldn't eat for that day. And on the total side,
no food.
Yes.
Nothing motivates like no food.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Except for the Spartans that were really good at stealing stuff.
Yes, which all of them were actually. Yeah,
they were all scrappy kids. It was gosh, this is all Fall of Reach. Like Fall of Reach is just like, it's probably one of my favorite books.
Oh yeah, just I'll make one note on the training. At this point in time, Blue Team together, the first iteration of Blue Team, consisting of John 117, Kelly 087, and Sam 034. That was the original Blue Team. They're paired off. John took off on his own. You had to run the obstacle course, then ring the bell. He took off there, but Sam and Kelly struggled, and they ended up last. So even though John was first, his team ended up last, so they lost. Which was you know, people look at, even I do it at times, you kind of idolize John because you play him in the games. But really, as a kid, he was a bit of a bully and a bit bit of a arrogant kid that you kind of saw there. But that was broken from he was broken to that real. So
And that was mostly thanks to Mendez, honestly.
Yes.
Most
Yep.
of the reason that Spartan 2s have the attitude that they do is because of Mendez's involvement, which is another character you encounter in Hunt for the Truth, actually.
Yes, voiced by Stacy Keach.
It's a really, really good one.
Yeah, it was. Okay. So that was their daily schedule. They got up early, calisthenics, classroom training, and then obstacle. They would have all kinds of twists, like stun mines on the obstacle course. During drills, there'd be snipers with paint darts, and if you got shot, you'd kind of be punished. They also did later on. They also did, and this is something in the book as well. They went on wilderness training, and the way they did it was they handed out fragments of a map to all of the candidates, and then dropped them off individually, with the idea of, okay, you have to rally to I think it was a Condor dropship.
Oh, yeah, this one.
The last one has to walk back.
Oh gosh.
So this is where you see John's growth, actually.
Yes.
Where he starts taking care of his team, or?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
All of the Spartans.
He doesn't just his team; he takes care of everybody.
Yep. He kind of initiates, like, as they're flying in, he's able to signal everyone, says, we're going to head for this location, like the one big landmark. They all meet, they match their maps up. Some were duplicates, some weren't. And they start moving on towards the Condor. They get to the Condor. It's no one in uniform. And no, it's not booby trapped.
That's right. No, yeah. That was later.
But they weren't in uniform. They thought that maybe they had stolen a dropship, or they were enemies and things of that nature. The soldiers there were there deliberately that way to try, essentially, to test the candidates, see what they would do. And the candidates would lured one guy away. Kelly did, because she was the fastest of them. Came across Sam, who was pretending he was hurt, and then the candidates jumped the guy and beat him up and took his stun baton. One of the things that's mentioned in Fall of Reach for their training is they also talked about wolves and how wolves would bring down larger prey because they work together as a pack. They did this again, and essentially they badly hurt everybody who was guarding that pelican or the condor, and then John contacted Deja, who was able to explain how to get the pilot to return. And it's important to note that John had everyone file on board, and he was the last person to get on board. They go back. He ends up getting. He's in Mendez's office with Halsey there, trying to explain his actions. And when Mendez and Halsey go to talk, they said, "What are we going to do about him?" And they said, "Promote him." And he was the first one to actually be granted the rank of petty officer.
Yep.
Nice.
So, So, throughout their training, there was a lot of talk about who was the Spartan Pro. Kurt was named. Jerome, Kurt 051, who would eventually be put in charge of the Spartan 3 program. Jerome 092, who, if you play Halo Wars, he's one of the Spartans on Red Team in Halo Wars. And Fred 104, which, yeah. And of course, no surprise, Halsey had John as leader. That's what it's happening. So their training would intensify. They train. I'm sorry, Green. If you did, you were you going to say something?
I was just gonna have you repeat that last little bit because you cut out one more time.
Oh, sorry about that. So, like I said, there were a number of Spartan. There were debates on who would be the Spartan. Halsey, of course, had John in mind, although Kurt, Jerome, and Fred were all named as potential leaders, and all of them would lead Spartan teams on their own within Halo lore.
Yeah, Fred even actually led Blue Team.
Yep, that he did. Fred, while John throughout the span of the actual games, Fred, Linda, and Kelly formed Blue Team and worked with who's. Kurt was had his death faked, and he was the one who was put in charge of their training. And Jerome actually was leader of Red Team, the one that is with the Spirit of Fire. For anyone who plays Halo Wars. So at the age of 14, all the candidates participated in the Astra augmentation. So the actual augmentations that they went through. Let me see if I. Sorry, I'm just trying to find where I have the list of augmentations that the Spartan 2s went through.
Oh yeah, the massive list of. Well, and real quick, while you're looking that up too, this is the experimentations that Halsey had requested advice from a friend on, and she disguised the request as a theoretical, and I can't remember, did she say monkeys or did she say human? I want to say she didn't even say humans, bonobos.
Chimpanzee.
And like even her I keep wanting to say companion, but her co-thinker, or God, man, I just blanked on the word that I need to use there. Her peer, God, he was like, this is dangerous. I'm really glad this is just theoretical and you're not actually thinking of doing this. Like, and that was when he thought it was with monkeys. So yeah, it was. This round of experimentations was.
Yeah.
Or augmentations, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I kind of threw the link in chat so people look at it because there's a lot of information here. They did occipital capillary reversal which was for visual processing. Essentially make their vision sharper, more sensitive. The risk on that was the subjects could face retinal rejection, blindness. There was carbide ceramic ossification, which is advanced ceramic materials are grafted onto the skeleton. Kind of in the way that Wolverine got his adamantium. Maybe not quite that far.
It's pretty accurate though, because that's also why the Spartan 2s are so much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
They had their skeletal structure pretty much broken down and then reconfigured, for lack of a better example.
So, I mean, there was chances of bone pulverization with that. They had a thyroid implant that would be essentially release human growth hormone to boost growth of skeletal and tissues. There was a chance of elephantiasis, and it would suppress sexual drive in them. There was a number of muscular enhancements, growth hormones, protein complexes to increase muscle strength and density. And there was a chance of fatal cardiac arrest from that. And then superconducting fabrication of dendrites, which essentially is something to enhance the reflexes by 300%. Some of the subjects could contact, but the risk was you could contract Parkinson's disease from that. So, of the 75 that actually underwent the augmentation, 33 came out of it as able to continue serving. The others either exceedingly deformed or died, or essentially rejected augmentation. Now, some of them in the book Fall of Reach, there's a memorial service where the caskets are launched out in space, but it ended up that for some of those that didn't really happen. Those that had died, quote unquote, had died, were being held in stasis to
learn from.
Well, not learn from, but try to rehabilitate.
Oh yeah. There were some, but some of the ones that died, they also kept for research purposes to see what had gone wrong. Because there was what's her face from Hunt the Truth was one of the ones that they tried to rehabilitate.
Yes. Well, no, Ilsa Zane, she was a Spartan.
Oh no, yeah, that's right. Oh, I'm thinking the one that was the intelligence officer one. That he had his body like completely destroyed.
Oh, that was Fahad.
Yes.
He had contracted essentially Parkinson's because of it. Because he was shaking so bad.
Yeah.
So, Black Team was one that was totally rehabilitated by Oni. Saren Osman is actually, who is now head of Oni. She was actually Saren's. Her body rejected the augmentations, and she was rehabilitated under the eye of then head of Oni, Margaret Parangosky, to kind of become a protege.
Such a stand-up person.
Oh yeah, she's a lovely person. Not going there. Yeah, it just needless. Let me just for everyone listening or in chat, Margaret Parangosky is, again, she was head of Oni, so this whole project she approved it. She had a lot of conflict, and she disliked Catherine Halsey quite a bit. But Halsey was kind of protected, if you read the Kilo 5 trilogy, you'll get a definite feel for Parangosky. And also, actually, if you read Ghost Psionics, in that opening scene, they talk about the creation of the Spartan 3 program, and Parangosky is in that conversation. Her hands are stained with the same blood as Halsey, but she kind of doesn't get any blame, which, yeah, that I have an issue with. So, back to the Spartan 2s. After the augmentations, after the Spartan 2s, they were, let's see what this is at.
So after Project Aster, yeah.
Yes, after Project Aster, they were, okay, and this is, they were put to rehab, and I can't find the name of the ship right now. And you kind of get there's a great scene in that part of the novel. It describes, the augmentation and how, from John's point of view, how things seem off. Things, um, he took it's like he was in a weight room and like weights didn't seem right. He had to up the amount to be able to get the same feel, the same kind of workout. He noticed things seemed to be moving slower, so he took a pin out of a dumbbell set or a barbell set and held it at like 1 meter above the deck and dropped it at 1 G and timed it and figured out, okay, is gravity actually working properly? And it was. Mind you, he did this all in his head. Um, so they went through a number of. They did a number of. They went through a bunch of additional training. There was a point in time that their augmentations had gotten. All the Spartans could run about 55 miles an hour, with Kelly 087 actually moving faster than that, but she was always one of the fastest Spartans. They could lift like 3 times their body weight without any aid of any kind of exoskeleton. It wasn't long after their augmentation that they moved into the abandoned titanium mines in Reach for their training, because they were so overpowered that they would easily defeat the trainers, and I think they may have actually killed one, if I remember correctly.
Well, I know that one of them killed him, or one of them died because of the suits.
No, that wasn't a trainer. That was something.
Okay.
Was that tester?
Was that just a tech? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I do remember that one. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the Spartan 2s had gotten so strong that their trainers had to use exoskeletons with stun rounds in like Gatling gun type thing, play capture the flag. And it's great because the Spartans would go out and like do their own, like steal the equipment that they need to win, like the sneak suits, cables, all this other stuff. They could, they could actually dent the exoskeleton by hitting it. They were that strong. So after that, with their training, they initially had been developed to fight the insurrectionists, but it was not long after that the Covenant hit Covenant hit Harvest.
Harvest, yeah.
Harvest, and so their training, everything was accelerated to fight this new enemy. But the Spartans' actual first mission was back to John's old stomping, to kidnap a rebel leader by the name of Watts, who had defected some time ago, like in the, I can't even remember how long, but he had defected. And John picked 6 team members: Linda, Kelly, Fred being 3 of them. The rebels were hidden in base in an asteroid. They snuck their way on a freighter that was going to there. They hid in the water storage location. Popped their way out and dressed in just essentially they had special suits. They did not have they were in special Oni sneak suits, covered up by just mechanics. Cumralls, and they snuck in. They found Watts, had a major shootout, and kidnapped him and got away, with the only injury being John, who was shot in the ribs. So, let's see here. It wasn't long after that one of the other things that Halsey was the Mjolnir armor was a set of armor that had an undersuit and then an oversuit. The undersuit was electrically charged to enhance muscle strength. And again, there was other armor over it as well. It was all designed to help enhance the Spartans' already abilities, give them a full heads-up display, allow them to be totally sealed off, and either whether it's from the vacuum of space or underwater, despite the fact that if you walk 2 feet in a water in any Halo game, you die. Yeah. Fall from space, no problem. Step in 2 feet of water, die. Okay. So, let's see here. Sorry, I'm just trying to find something here.
You're fine.
Yeah, okay, here it is. It's Mjolnir was a powered exoskeleton. Again, just to be able to take care of all of the to enhance the physical capabilities of a Spartan. So the very first armor was sorry, I can't remember where my notes are. I'm trying to find in my notes where I have this. Okay, here it is. The initial armor that was given to the Spartan 2s was at the Damascus Materials Testing Facility, which was on Tri-Ceti 4. The Spartan 2s, along with Catherine Halsey, had traveled there on a sea destroyer to go there and get their Mjolnir. They ran across a Covenant ship. They did battle, and the UNSC ship took a lot of damage. So they did a kind of like a flyby and dropped the Spartans down. They got them and they fitted them with their Mjolnir armor. Now, Mjolnir armor said it was designed to enhance the Spartans' capabilities. Now, one of the scenes that it's graphic in every iteration I've seen it in is kind of graphic, was a testing video that they showed of having a volunteer go into the Mjolnir armor and try to move. Well, it reacted so much that that the slightest movement caused the armor to move, which started breaking bones.
Yeah, didn't you break his arm doing it?
Yeah.
Oh,
he broke more than his arm.
More than that. It essentially killed him because it started off with a broken arm, but his reaction to it caused the armor to keep reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
Yeah, he basically broke himself down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's at this point, and this was in and it was at this point that the Spartans actually had their first casualty.
Yeah.
To get away from in fighting the Covenant ship, the UNSC ship had taken a lot of damage, but it had damaged the Covenant ship with its Mac gun. So the Spartans all went EVA. From the Pelican, they took the missiles from the Pelican dropship and used the integrated thrusters to board the Covenant ship. It was John, Kelly, and Sam.
You asshole.
And Crucible.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I thought I was still muted. I'm for those of you who are wondering, I'm redoing the last word quest and I'm on the second step and I'm on my Warlock because I already finished it on my Titan, or not my Titan, on my Hunter, and it's rough. I never play Warlock. So it's real rough.
The floof is not with you.
It's not actually, the floof isn't too bad. I've gotten pretty used to it by now. The thing that I miss the most is my reload. But
So
anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Rip Sam.
So it was John.
It's so bad. It's Sam. Sam feels so bad for Sam.
What happened was they were moving their way through towards the reactor, and they came across jackals for the first time. And one of them charged up a plasma shot, and it would have hit John if Sam wouldn't have knocked him out of the way.
Yep.
Well, the problem is when that happened, it breached Sam's armor. So, and with breached armor, he would never survive in the vacuum. So, John was forced to order him to stay behind and to protect the missile heads, so the Covenant wouldn't disable them. It destroyed the entire ship.
And Sam was declared MIA.
Yes,
because Spartans don't die.
Mm-hmm. So this was the first. That was the first instance of combat with Spartan 2s. It was widely held that Spartan 2s could hold their own and were a force multiplier of a massive force multiplier, even when paired with normal Marines or Army, to the point where they could defeat the Covenant on the ground. The only thing they couldn't do is defeat them in space. And the Covenant fleet had a massive advantage. So now there were only 33 Spartans, and eventually casualties started to mount. There was Cal 131. She died in a mission with it and to assassinate a prophet. Anyone who has seen the clip, the babysitter, from Halo Legends, that was actually one of the better stories. And that's one there, and then also I can't remember right now. I can't find the name, but also as a Spartan died protecting Catherine Halsey before she was captured by the Covenant. Later rescued by
Team
John.
Osiris. Or no, was it Team Osiris that rescued? Oh yeah, you're right.
No. Yeah, no. Let's see something here. Okay, so it was during this time that Oni wanted to, like I said, Catherine Halsey had rubbed a lot of people at Oni the wrong way. She was brilliant. The Spartan 2 program was a success, but there were people who realized that they weren't enough. So a lot of the senior members of ONI, Colonel Ackerson, Mark Parangoski, and a few others, met to essentially form the basis of the Spartan 3 program. They were not going to. Now, one thing, Halsey had planned a second wave of Spartan 2s, but at that point in time, the population had dropped too much. They really didn't have enough people, and also the funding was the cost of the Spartan 2 program was astronomical. The cost of a suit of Mjolnir armor was the equivalent of a destroyer in the UNSC. So everything was really expensive. So obviously, ONI and UNSC wanted to make, they wanted the Spartans, but they didn't want to spend as much. Hence the Spartan 3 program. Spartan 3 program was, like I said, was one that was really, the idea came up with Colonel James Ackerson. It was, again, approved by Parangoski with the whole, they would loosen up the tight genetic markers that Halsey had set, and they wouldn't kidnap kids.
Mm.
They would go to orphans, and of the same time, of the same age range of like 4 to 8, to ask them to volunteer, and the idea was they were supposed to be cheaper and more expendable. They would be sent on extremely high risk missions.
Emphasis on the expendable piece.
Yes. Now the lead trainer on this was 051. Oni had arranged an accident to make him seem he had died on a mission, but he was actually put in charge, along with Mendez, of training the Spartan 3s. Now, there ended up being 3 companies of Spartan 3s: Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Alpha, so like I said, the whole idea was to make them faster and cheaper. Kurt, who had been given the name Ambrose by to hide that he was a Spartan 2, they had 497 candidates, and 300 became Spartans. They saw action on a number of cities, a number of planets, and they were eventually deployed on an operation called Prometheus to destroy a Covenant shipyard. During that action, all 300 Spartans were killed. They essentially were just overwhelmed. Now, one of the things about the Spartan 3s was Ambrose and Mendez had there still were genetic markers that they were, but they were just looser. But those that actually fit the markers that Catherine Halsey had originally set aside, those Spartans had been extracted from the general population of Alpha Company and also from the other companies, with the idea of not wasting them to save them. Now, the other difference between the Spartan 2s and the 3s, Spartan 2s, again, had Mjolnir armor. Spartan 3s were given SPI armor, which is semi-powered infiltration armor. They were not augmented. They were there for sneaking, but they really didn't get any of the benefits.
It was like comparing a tank to a suit of cardboard.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, the fact that they the 300 of Alpha Team did do a lot, and the destruction of the shipyard was important, but the fact that you lost all of them for that. Now, those had been pulled aside. They were ones who, again, from those people who played Halo Reach, Noble Team. Noble Team, essentially, all the members of Noble Team were those that would have met the genetic criteria that Halsey originally set aside. Those are the ones that were put as special. They were given special duties, headhunters, where going after specific Covenant threats, and other teams that. Beta Company was approved right after Operation Prometheus. There were 418 candidates, again, about 300. Ambrose did a tougher training program for this, but despite everything, in an operation known as Torpedo, 298 the 300 died, with only 2 surviving. Tom B292 and Lucy B091. So again, they accomplished a lot, but it was, the fact that sorry about that noise there, but the fact that they weren't, they essentially weren't equipped like a Spartan would be equipped, essentially made them more vulnerable.
Yeah, they kind of were put into the field with a disability.
Kind of, yeah. And then comes Gamma Company. Yay. The thing with Gamma, this is kind of the same thing, but they were, at this point in time, the UNSC was really they were losing. So they needed to get teams in the field quickly. Alpha and Beta, yes, they were conscripted young, but they were going ahead and pretty much allowed to, when they hit their preteen, when they hit like 13, 14, that's when they were given their augmentation. Gamma Company was a little different. There were 330 candidates. All of them were approved, and all of them underwent augmentation. The difference with Gamma Company, though, was that puberty was artificially induced for them, essentially making them old enough to do the augmentation sooner, even though most of them were still they weren't even preteens. Or I'm sorry, they were in their preteens. In addition to the normal augmentation, the Spartan 3s underwent the same augmentation as the 2s. I meant to say that earlier, I'm sorry. The difference is that medical given them, so all of them could survive. The other difference was there was a series of augmentations given to those members of Gamma Company that were straight up illegal. There was a mutagen given to them. There's their aggression, strength, and intolerance to injury under. So essentially, as they went into combat and as they would fight harder.
Uppers.
Yes, pretty much. In the book Last Light, one of the actually had both legs broken, and he was still fighting. Now the problem is because under any measure of stress, the members of Gamma could react. So they actually had to take antipsychotic and bipolar drugs known as smoothers. So yeah, they were given this stuff. Normal.
Well, and there was then, I think it was Legends, where you had the 2 Gammas who were stuck and they didn't have their smoothers.
No. That in Halo Legends, that was Headhunter.
Yeah. Okay.
Headhunters, the headhunters were part of the Spartan 2s, Spartan 3s that actually fit within the genetic material, because those
No,
two
because
had
there
Mjolnir
was
armor.
it
No, they
wasn't
had
the
Mjolnir.
headhunters. It was the ones that got stuck in the cave. I'm gonna have to go look them up.
I'll have to look that one up again to make sure.
Yeah, because they were part of Gamma Company, and they got separated basically.
Yeah.
And they didn't have their smoothers, and it was like they were slowly unraveling, basically.
Yeah. So, and I'm kind of going over. I'm kind of hitting this part quickly because I do want to get into this wars a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fact the Spartan 3. If one of the debates that's out there is which one's worse, the Spartan 2 or the Spartan 3 program. Mm-hmm. And if you look at everything, I mean, the augmentations are still the same. Everything, the training was still the same. They were still young children. Spartan 2s, yes, they were kidnapped. Spartan 3s were orphans that volunteered. But I have I mean, everything that I've read, a 6-year-old cannot make that kind of decision. So to me, the Spartan 2s were kidnapped. The Spartan 3s were coerced.
Mm-hmm.
And which I mean, both neither are good,
right?
But the fact that the Spartan 3s were put together essentially as expendable, and I would argue that even though they couldn't give them Mjolnir, probably could have given them something more than SPI, and had them last longer. I still think the Spartan 3 program, especially if it happened with the game, those additional drugs, which essentially were that just tips it for me.
Right.
So,
well, my problem with the Spartan 3s was, like you were saying, they were like from the ground up designed to be throwaways. Like,
yeah. And
that's for me is where it kind of is like, I'm like Spartan 2s is not, it's not, the bar is not high by any means severe, but Eckers.
So, yeah. And then, then you have the Spartan 4 program. The Spartan program was actually created by a Spartan 2 washout, Musa 096, who essentially made Spartans on his own. He found funding and just created Spartans because he felt that the UNSC needed Spartans. They kind of went back to the Orion model where they got volunteers who had been in the service, and then they tested them and then went through augmentation. Now the other thing to remember is the Spartan augmentations are nowhere near what the 2s and 3s went through, because they took the genetic factor out of it. But what kind of makes up for it is the Mjolnir Gen 2 armor is better than the Mjolnir Gen 1 that was worn by the 2s and some of them. And I hope I get this right. One of the guys I know from the Halo community actually interviewed Frank O'Connor one time, and the discussion came, well, could a Spartan 4 beat a Spartan 2?
I remember this.
Now, in armor, if you have a Spartan 2 in Gen 1 Mjolnir and a Spartan 4 in their Gen 1 Mjolnir, they're even. Outside of the armor, they're still fairly even, but because of the training and everything, but the experience of the Spartan 2 would advantage. Now, I really hope I said that right. I believe that's correct. I will try to dig up a link to that interview and get that.
That sounds right, because wasn't that where he also compared the Spartan 2s are like tanks and the Spartan 4s are more like I can't remember what vehicle, but he's like,
I can't. No, I mean, it's hard to, I can't remember the specifics behind that, and I'm sorry, but I mean, this has been, that was something that gone back and forth a ton. Um, who would win between a Spartan 2 and a Spartan? Now, if they're both in their armor, they're going to be equal.
Right.
And outside of armor, it would come down to the experience of the Spartan 2, which would give them the advantage. And again, with the Spartan, they don't. I mean, you still have some of the problems that you had with Orion. You have sympathizers with those that are enemies against the UNSC. That was seen in the Escalation comics, where you had Spartan 4s that were trained that were actually sympathizers with the insurrectionists. You had some that were given drugs and gone insane. The one specific that I know of is Ilsa Zane, who was actually one of the first candidates for program, and given some more experimental stuff that so she could be heavily she wouldn't need Mjolnir armor. That didn't turn out well. She also appears in Halo Initiation, in season, both of which I think are worth a read. So and also with the Spartan, there's a lot of negative around them because they have. I know they've been called Spartan Bros before. Anyone who's played Halo, excuse me, and seen the intro, Majestic, that team, they're the banter that's there and all this other stuff. It's not a surprise for anyone who's been in the military, that kind of banter, but I know a lot of people think that it's misplaced with Spartans, to the point that some have said they shouldn't be called Spartans. Okay, slight plug. I know that someplace on the FFC is a Halo article I wrote.
You should go read it.
It's the Spartan 4s, they're Spartans. They underwent the training. They served the same role as the Spartans 2s did, as Orion did, and even as the 3s. So so right now the Spartan 4s are every bit as equivalent or as much as anyone else before them. So I know that was kind of rushed, but that's kind of the quick and dirty of it. I could probably go on for another few hours with this.
Nice.
But I don't know.
It sounds like you should write another article about it.
Yeah, I probably should. I do actually have one, not specifically for Spartans, but yes, it's probably going to be on Halsey.
Yes,
because
acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Although, how long is that article going to end up being, Pens?
It probably will never end.
Article? He's going to make a forum. What are you talking about?
It's a book. It's a whole book. The first book of Focus Fire Chat.
It's I mean, there are just in general, and I know we talked about Spartans, but in general, one of the best characters I have ever, most interesting character I've ever come across in gaming is Catherine Halsey. The only other one that I would probably put in that same category as Halsey is from a perspective of whether you like them or not. It is an interesting character. Their story is interesting. Everything about them. You don't have to agree with what they're doing or what they did, but if you listen to if you pay attention to the logic of why they did what they did, it's like, okay, I can accept that. Still don't like you, or maybe I do like you, but Halsey is, to me, is, like I said, there's only one other character that's even close to matching, just from a straight up interest and overall impact in that universe. There's not much you can do in going back to Halsey. I mean, this was a story about Spartans, and we're talking about Halsey, or this was a show on Spartans, and we're talking about Halsey. She's just an ultimately really interesting character,
and she's just so ingrained with everything.
Oh yeah, and actually, that's also one of the harder things for people. One of the more difficult things for people to get into the Halo lore is it is so deep. It is so dense, and you can't like jump in without talking about Halsey. And I mean, that's difficult for some people, but if you stick with it, it is. I mean, everything about it is just really interesting. So, and that's all I got for right now.
Nice. Well, hey, let's run through some shout outs real quick. And so what shout outs you got for us, Benz?
I'm going to give it, whenever I'm talking Halo, Halo Fan for Life, which is my Spark company, Podtacular. If you want to go someplace for general Halo news, Podtacular is great. Halo lore, if you want people who really, really know it, Halo Canon on YouTube. Those three are some of the best groups that I know in the Halo community. And also, to you guys, FFC, I'm actually blown away that that Halo has appeared 4 times on there, and it's been voted on.
Mm-hmm.
Done this 4 times. I don't know why, but thank you for giving me. Yeah, that's something that I really enjoy. On a whim, whenever it came up again, I took a look and it's like, okay, there's been 30. At the time, I think there's 34, and it's like, okay, so we're averaging about every 8.5 extra lore shows, Halo's going to come up. Okay.
But I mean, we obviously Bungie, for one, did a good job writing this, obviously. But there's also, we enjoy hearing you talk about it. We enjoy so many things about this interesting and morally questionable world.
Yes. Yep.
So it's good to have you come back multiple times and explain different aspects and go through the story over and over, because there are a lot of outside of materials from outside of the game. Like, I read the books, but I never touched the comic books. But I also never touched any of the mobile games or the turn-based games that are out there now. So it's like, I don't know any of the extra stuff that's kind of added to it now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's Halo is my Star Wars. Before they totally dumped if you count the Legends of Star Wars, that's kind of what Halo is to me. It's just, I just love it, and I really appreciate you guys having me on to talk about it. So,
no, we appreciate you being here and being willing to jump on. Green, what about you? What do you have this week?
My shout outs are to the fact that Guardian Con is 152 days away. I may have a countdown for 2 things on my phone: my sister's wedding and Guardian Con.
I need to book my flight.
Yeah, I need to as well.
That's yep. I'm right there with you guys. That's the one thing that I have left.
Yep. So that is shout out to anybody who is even considering going to Guardian Con. It's a blast. even if you're like not a big convention fan, it's fun just going and hanging out with everybody and talking and seeing all the different artists and talking to all the different artists. So if you're considering it, I would suggest maybe figuring out a way to do it because it's worth it. I may have been hooked the first year going out there, even though my wife was not very happy about the whole thing because she's not a convention person.
Well, to be fair, I'm not a convention person, but
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy it. It's just
you enjoy
nice.
video games though. My wife doesn't.
Right? No, and that's fair. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, you know, it's just the Destiny community as a whole. Like, and it's definitely grown beyond Destiny. You know, I think last year's was the first one that it was like, this is obviously
they had Warframe.
This
and
is
Fortnite.
obviously not just Destiny anymore, which is 100% awesome. I love that.
Branching out.
But I think also like the core personality of the Destiny community is what is still definitely there. And that's you know, that community, the Destiny community has always been like really accepting. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that is not the case with some conventions. But
I mean, it seems like every community has its clique, right? Like you have your negative cliques and your positive cliques in each community. And Destiny is, by all honesty, no different than any other community. But the thing that it seems to overcome is that it doesn't rip apart their community. Like they may be negative about things, but generally there's not people just being complete and utter jerks.
Right.
Generally. So, I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that matter.
No, I agree completely. I think that's one of the reasons I really appreciate being around the Destiny community is that the differences of opinions that normally in the internet will get you yelled and screamed at. I mean, you might get yelled at, but you won't get like it's not, I don't know, it's not as toxic as some other communities that I've witnessed by any stretch of the imagination. Speaking of other communities, I did want to give a big shout out to Halopedia and Halo Nation, because Halo, they are merging. Are
nice.
They're still voting,
they're
right?
They're voting. The idea was at one point, Halopedia was a part of Halo Nation.
Right.
They split off. The Halo Nation, which is known as the Halo, it had lore stuff and it had a lot of communities. Halo definitely lore. The content there was pretty much the same across the board, and even though they split, they were still very supportive of each other. But just the situation as things to possibly merge back together, there's some stuff that they're questioning about, admins and things like that, which are more.
Well, my understanding was the hosting site for Halo Nation also was kind of muscling stuff in that they didn't necessarily agree with.
If anyone, the hosting site and the hosting service, Halo Nation, that format, there's a ton of ads. There's a ton of stuff that pops up on the page. It makes it real hard to scroll through.
Right.
The formatting used by Halopedia is one that I like more. It seems cleaner. It's easier to scroll up and down on. That's just personal preference. The data is the same between the two, and the people who are on it, whether they're on Halo Nation or Halopedia, do great work. I just personally hate the fact that as I'm trying to read an article, this ad keeps popping up and taking me back to the top of the page.
Right. And I know that was a big point on the article that I had read. I think it was earlier last week, I think. They were wrapping up the voting. But I mean, big shout out to them, because that's awesome that they're trying to, start trying to merge back into just having the one source for those of us who are interested but aren't like super admins on, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's everything I had. Looking forward to Guardian Con, of course. We have a lot of stuff in between now and then, but we'll still be here as always. We'll see you guys next week, and I think we're gonna stick around for a little bit of the after show. So yeah. And cut.
Whew.
Nice job, Pens.
Thanks. It was. I found myself.
This one was
trying to
easier to.
decide.
No. This one was easier to follow than the Halsey one, just because Halsey's stuff is so convoluted. This
Oh,
one
yeah.
was good. Oh,
Yeah.
by the way,
Mhm.
don't tell Beard this, but Warlock is super easy to play Crucible with. Like, I've been on the top of the leaderboard, and I've almost finished the second step of the last word quest on my Warlock. That's stupid, and I've only played 3 games.
I actually, like this weekend, I got to check with Ernie and Kim and see if they want to try to run Shattered Throne, because
You got something special to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, no, that's just blind well, that one, but I want to get Wish Ender because
Nice. It's fun.
I still want to try to get
Chronicler,
but I mean, a lot of it is just some of the RNG stuff with it is just pissing me off because
Yeah.
I ran Tangled Shore, like stuff on Tangled Shore for like 4 when it was the Flashpoint, and I think I got 1 drop. I was just like,
yeah,
really?
Most Loyal is one of those that I'm like,
don't fucking teabag. Don't do that. You have
But,
a goddamn gravity hammer. Of course you're gonna win that.
The other thing is just like, you have to get the ship to get Wayfarer.
Mm-hmm.
And that only drops from the Shattered Throne, and that's RNG.
Oh. Isn't the ghost needed too?
The
Or
ghost
no?
is too. I don't remember if the ghost is tied to Shattered Throne or if it's tied to something else. Like, it might be tied to something else, but I know the ship is tied to Shattered Throne, and I am, depending on how much I play of Anthem this weekend, because I picked that up just to try that thing out, and it's fun. It's just really confusing right now because we're starting at level 10, and there's no story, context, anything. So I'm like, I'm just shooting things
and flying
and
flying
playing.
looks cool.
Yeah, the flying the controls are really easy for flying too. So you're not like, I don't know, flying in a freaking Banshee from Halo. Which I never got the hang of.
Hey now.
I never got the hang of that.
Left bumper is your friend.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
The only thing that I'd say is I watched during the VIP access. I was watching with that, and what's the really fast?
Either Shadow or Interceptor.
I think it's
The Interceptor.
Yeah, the Interceptor is the really little one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was it was Abontis. Says he streamed the Interceptor, and immediately I started feeling frame. I'm like, God, I'm going to be ill.
It's
like just the movement on it and all that stuff. I was just like,
I'm playing the Colossus. It's a lot slower, and you could probably like, it's not super quick and agile like Warframe does and the Interceptor does. It's a lot more tanky and beefy, and it feels like you're playing Titanfall, honestly, in the Colossus. So
I heard a lot of people say that, yeah.
Because you're shooting a giant rocket over and over when you do your super. And then the first one that you get, I can't remember what it's called in the beta, but it has like a Farah, like the Death from Above or whatever that she does. where it has the multiple rockets,
Mm-hmm.
and that works out pretty well. Okay.
Nope. Go away, sword. Sorry. I just baited a guy into getting a fusion cannon to his face. Oh, I'm an asshole.
I cannot get the hang of freaking the warlock grenades. Don't make sense to me.
I don't think the warlock grenades make sense to warlocks.
Yeah.
They
Although
just
what was it?
Though solar grenades always were the pain in my ass.
Well, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
depends on which one.
What was it? The
whatever D1.
the one that if you had somebody max discipline.
Yeah, it's just basically a miner's son. It's like, God damn it.
They had grenades for days. I was watching
Max Dex.
I was watching DJ. I remember watching
because what was there weren't the Sunbreakers, weren't those the other gloves that gave him like extra?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, God damn it.
Like max discipline and Sunbreakers. And I'm just sitting here watching him throw grenade after grenade after grenade after grenade. I'm just going, I hate you. I hate you so much.
You're a bad person. You're a bad person.
I just remember what was Rusted Lands. You'd go into the room, and it would just be like carpet grenades. I'm like, nope. Just gonna turn around and walk the other way.
You are worse than the Fun Police. I think for me though, it's from a game perspective. It's like Anthem seems interesting, but it doesn't have the hook in me, at least not yet. Maybe once, I'm sure like Libby and them chat will update some of the story stuff on that. I mean, once I get that information, that might allow me. But I've actually been looking for some different kind of games to play, and I may play through.
Get Game Pass, dude. Again. If you have the Game Pass,
I do. Yeah. I mean
the
oh my God!
Ashen,
why all the fucking snipers?
Ashen is really great. God, what was the other one that I started? Below is really weird, but it wasn't terrible. It's just you have to be very patient.
I ended up picking up the first tree, which I mean from a control perspective was weird. From a story perspective, I was sobbing at the end of it. So
what's the other one? Greedfall is coming out. That looks like it's gonna be a good one. There was another. I have a list.
Oh, the Ashen was the one that
Ashen's an RPG. It's really fun.
Yeah, but it was a couple of years ago that it was announced at E3 for Xbox.
Yeah,
I remember looking at it going, oh, that looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like the character models are all like clay, and they don't have faces. Like I like the artistic style that they use, and it's really super easy to get into.
Yeah, but it's yeah. I've got class in 7 hours. Oh well.
Oh, here's my list. Book of the Dead, Cyberpunk, Beyond Good and Evil, Generation Zero, The Sinking City looks really cool. A Plague Tale looks very interesting. Wildlife is I don't know really quite yet. The Outer Worlds and Scavengers, though, those are going to be the ones that I'm really interested in because those are the ones that are former Bungie /343 people that went on to make independent studios. Scavengers, I think, is from Bungie, and the Outer Worlds is the original creators of Fallout. And then Scavengers is, I cannot remember the guy's name, but he's from Bungie. And he went on
is that Marcus Leto? Is that Leto's?
Scavengers?
Marcus Leto? Is that Scavengers?
It might be. He went on to make his own gaming company.
Yeah. It's like interactive. No, not interactive. Like
It's
I
like
follow him
it's
on
a
Twitter. I could probably look it up.
yeah. It's a first person shooter, but it's more like Fallout esque. I mean, it's definitely, I don't know. It's a really weird thing. But the Outer Worlds is actually from the OG Fallout team, and it's the game that they said they like. It's going to be probably a spiritual successor to Fallout 2.
Marcus, it's V1 Interactive.
Yeah.
Slato, yeah.
But yeah, no, those two are definitely up there. A Plague Tale, it's just it reminds me a lot of Thief mechanics, but it's all about like the Black Death and stuff. So it's like there's some. I don't know if you watch the trailer for it. It's got some pretty interesting dynamics, I think. And then Sinking City is basically Call of Cthulhu as a video game, which
I
looks
saw that and
amazing. But
actually,
I also
I
really like Call of Cthulhu's RPG.
I'll admit, one game I'm hoping it does come out is Valley of the Gods, which was made by Camp Santo. They're the ones who made Firewatch. And
okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's Book of the Dead was an interesting one. I can't remember which one that one. Cyberpunk and Beyond Good and Evil are I'm gonna keep an eye on just because Beyond Good and Evil just looks freaking hilarious, and Cyberpunk is it's Cyberpunk, like, you know.
Yeah. I'll admit, right now, all I want is some more information on Halo
Infinite.
Please.
Yeah.
Please, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. Or the TV show that apparently they're still.
We will. I'm willing to bet probably at the Comic Cons we'll get some more information, because TV show, that kind of stuff would drop at a Comic.
Oh yeah. Well, and I mean they're filming it, so it's like they're doing a really good job keeping everything under wraps. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure 343 is trying to get everything marketed to the best they can from a time, because I've heard things that, like, you've heard the rumblings of next generation of Xbox console.
Oh yeah.
Which you also hear that might be the last Xbox console.
Oh really?
Yeah.
And
Xbox not the only one that's doing that. I think both PlayStation and Xbox are talking about I don't know, it's not necessarily proprietary, but it's basically an upgradable upgradable console, because most of it's, everything's moving to the cloud computing anyways for the most part. Yeah. So you just need an access point to access the internet. And with the wild success of Xbox One, with taking out of context the last couple days where they've had the doomsday issues.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which that being said, due to that kind of being related to what I do for a living, I'm like, that, honestly, it's just what it is. Like that's just, that's going to happen no matter what.
When I was at that customer site, I spent the past 3 days at a customer site on this peer network, that some of the, there were a number of things that was a pain in the ass there. One of the things was they had software that required .NET install.
Oh yeah, you were saying that.
But it couldn't download because of the issues from my.
Right.
I ended up having to put a call into Microsoft, find a way to work around it. But it was, that issue was not just an.
Oh no, that's what I mean, is like that was not a console issue. That was an actual like Windows services was down. Like,
well, now to be totally fair, it wasn't totally a Microsoft issue. It was a DNS issue that affected Microsoft.
Oh,
At
was
least the way
was
I
that what
understood
happened? Oh,
it might have been, well, maybe it was a couple of that, but either way, it was because we had tons of customers who use 365. I mean, I spent Monday at a customer site setting up 365 for multi-factor authentication.
Oh God.
And yeah, that was fun. Yeah. So I mean, there were, we move a lot of customers to 365, and well, I mean, if just don't call, be prepared for, well, stuff's not working on Microsoft's end. That's why it ain't working for you.
Right. Though with 365, if you download the app to the desktop, can't you still somewhat get offline capabilities?
Yeah, somewhat.
It's not. I mean, it's not as fancy dancy as if you just I don't know, have the actual program on your computer.
No, yeah, you're right about that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think overall, I mean, I'll admit I have a PlayStation, but I'm not on it nearly enough to really manage PlayStation Network. But I've overall been pretty happy with Xbox Live.
Oh yeah.
Over the years, this past week notwithstanding, I think over, and frankly, I remember, was it 2 or 3 years ago, someone, both Microsoft and PlayStation, over Christmas.
What about what?
It was a few years back over Christmas. Someone decided to put a DDoS
Lizard
attack
Squad.
in place.
Yeah, that was Lizard Squad, because I remember everyone losing their collective shit over it.
Mm-hmm. They DDoSed both Microsoft, Xbox,
they DDoSed
and
everybody. Yeah,
over Christmas.
I was like, they're not just dealing with corporate pissed off people; they're dealing with gamers pissed off. Because it's like, and that was the point, that was the highest volume of, that's the biggest time that people are trying to get online, because that's when everyone updates their games.
And when kids are home from school.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and plus you had the problem with, you had all these people who had gotten new games,
they were trying to update
They're
consoles.
trying to get everything set up, and then just, these guys come in, and
they did not make friends that day.
No, not in the least.
I broke down and got the XP gold pack.
I'll admit, there was a point in time I was trying to see it. I'm at one.
That guy is such a fucking dick. I'm getting teabagged from a shotgunning titan who just really actually doesn't know how to do his shit, but he also, I don't know. Just stupid. It's like, you're really not that good, but you're gonna teabag like you're a god. It's like, alright, maybe that's what your talent is in. You're talented in dragging your balls across the ground because you're probably not very tall and not very well endowed. And the only thing you've got are your balls.
And the green rage ensues.
I am really, really afraid to see both you.
Me and who? Cole?
Cole.
Oh, yeah.
Is she going to make it?
Yeah, she actually has a booth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she has a booth for a Bad Destiny joke.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
And she's starting her... What the fuck? This Titan. What? It was like magicking across the screen in front of my face as a warlock and still somehow managing. I don't know. I don't understand him. And warlock magic is stupid. I miss my hunter, but I'm trying to get this for Mylan.
You said you're on your second step?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went down. Motherfucker. Okay, I'm gonna stop playing tonight because that's not gonna go well.
Yeah.
And
And
I was up to
Colorado
78%.
explodes.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was up at 78 and went down to 64 just then. So it's like, all right.
Yeah, that's probably a
ow.
good sign to step away.
Just for the moment.
Yeah.
Oh god, I don't know red spawn on. Okay, that's where I am. I'm so used to spawning in as blue team on this map.
Which map are you on?
It's the remake of the one with the purple vats and everything, the poison ground. I don't know what the fuck map this is. Damnation.
Okay.
I don't mind the map. I very rarely spawn as red team on it, and I spawned in as red team. I'm like, where the hell am I?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off.
Yeah, you
All
got
right.
you got class tomorrow.
It's early.
Yeah.
All right, chat.
And then
You guys have a great night. Thanks for spending it with us. We will get these episodes out as quickly as possible, as always. Hope everyone has a great night. We will see you guys later.
night all.
Bye.